Welcome to Show Philly. Yeah, that's right. Show 215 in the PHL. That's the show we're at right now. I am your handsome host, the NFL genius in the upper left corner. We got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
Gene, it's funny you say that. This is Show Philly because that means next week we're going to be Show Cleveland. Show
I like that.
6.
Isn't that how that works out real well?
Back-to-back weeks. That'd be fun.
This next week will be a bad show then.
No, it'll just be an underperforming show. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, if we were going to do this right, we should have put the hyphen between the 2 and the 1 this week, and we could have been the Sixers record through 17 games.
No, we're not 2-15 yet. We're not going to be
yet.
We're not going to be 2-15. Listen, I'll tell you this. I think the 76ers finished this season with a better record than Cavs.
No.
I believe that. I truly believe that. I'm not kidding. But we'll see. Upper right corner, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. Willie Shallcross.
Gentlemen.
Tell him he's nuts. Tell him he's nuts, Bill.
You're a little nuts about that one.
That's fair. I think the 76ers have the best roster in basketball. I believe it. And I think that Tyrese Maxey going in that meeting, I think Tyrese Maxey going in that meeting, talking about accountability and calling out the big fella, is the turning point in the season. I think we're going to look back at this and say, Tyrese Maxey saved the 76er season.
I think all that can be true. I still don't think they have a better roster than Boston, and I don't think we're going to beat Boston. And I don't have any. JoJo's borderline dead to me. So
he can be borderline dead to you, and that's fine. But what I want to kind of bring up is, I don't know a roster that has the depth the 76ers do. Obviously, it looks like we had a home run in the draft, looking like the rookie of the year. You got Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Caleb Martin, Joel Embiid. I mean, I think the team's loaded.
And how many of those guys are going to play every night?
Now, the thing is, I don't believe they need to play every night. I think most of them will. I think Joel Embiid will miss a lot of games. But I think even without Joel, if you put the rest of that roster out there with Andre Drummond, I think the 76ers are still a good roster.
I don't disagree with that.
I don't think they have to play every week. I really don't.
I think they need to build chemistry. I mean, we're going to see they're all 3 of them are going to play tonight. So for the first time, it looks like. So I guess we'll see what it looks like. And obviously, you can't judge this book by the initial cover here. But that being said, it's gonna be an uphill battle for them.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think when you look at the 76ers team and you go player for player, position for position, maybe Boston's got a better roster than them. I don't think anybody else does. I think the 76ers roster, player for player, is the best in basketball. And I believe that. Maxey, George, Caleb, Joel, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Kelly Oubre, Yabusele, Andre. Yes, I did. Kyle Lowry's a good backup point guard, good leader.
Bro,
Yabusele,
3 years ago, you told me Kyle Lowry.
I would say, the first year of the show, we were all saying how Kyle Lowry's washed. Now he's a great backup point guard.
He's a good leader, though. Good bench.
They're great on paper. I'll say that. They are attractive as hell on paper. You look at that roster on a piece of paper, you'd be drooling. But that's also not the reality of what that team's going to be. So,
what seed do you think they finish as?
They'll be lucky to get to like 6th.
How about you, Cottrell? I just want to get this on record, so when you're wrong at the end of the year, we could look at it.
I mean, I ultimately think they finish 6th. They have the luxury of being still in the East, and no one's really pulling away with anything outside of Cleveland and Boston. So I mean, I think even if they get hot, I mean, they're going to have a good shot to escape the play in there. So I ultimately think they finish at 6.
And I think they finish 3. I don't care how weird that sounds, how crazy that sounds. I think the 76ers go on a 10-game winning streak this season.
Behind who? Boston.
Behind Paul George.
I'm saying like no, not that. I'm saying like you said they finished 3 behind Boston and who?
I don't know yet. You have to give me maybe Boston, New York.
All right.
I got Cleveland 4-5 right around that area. I don't think they're that good of a roster. I don't think you do either.
I mean, I think the starting lineup is good, but I also think watching them play for 15 games and how Kenny Atkinson has just changed the way that they look offensively, I do think they are a lot better than what they were last year.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess we'll find out. We're not talking that much about the Sixers tonight, unless somebody's using Joel Embiid. You got to be kidding me! But I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to talk about it. No, seriously. I love the Tyrese Maxey call out. I think that was awesome.
4 teams have started 2-9 in the history of the NBA. Only one of them has made the playoffs, and you think they're going to go to the 3rd seed?
Yes, I do.
That's wild.
Okay, you thought it was wild when I said Patrick Mahomes is the next Michael Jordan. Thought that was wild, didn't you? How's that looking?
Is he there yet?
No. How can you? I predicted it though, bro.
Okay, but your prediction hasn't come true yet, bro.
It's still coming true, bro. You better watch.
We'll see.
You might be watching the greatest quarterback of all time. The guy's a creature.
Let me know when he gets to 6 or 7.
Yeah,
got a long way to go.
He's played 7 years in the league yet.
Got a long way to go.
He's right on pace. He's right on par. We got a lot to get into this week. It's going to be a fun week. NFL action, ready to fire it up. Let's talk about last week. Guys, I cannot get enough. If there's 2 teams that I love failing more than any team in the NFL right now, obviously going into the season, I wouldn't have told you this with the Jets, but I love watching their downfall. Them and the Cowboys are absolute dumpster fires. It is incredible to watch. But let's take a step back. Let's talk about Joe Douglas being fired from the New York Jets. This obviously the big ticket news this week. Woody Johnson is out of his damn mind.
Nuts.
Out of his
Absolutely
mind.
Nuts.
We go fire the guy that drafted Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner. It's his fault now.
I mean, I don't know.
He's also the guy that let the wolf into the hen house too. So
you don't think Woody had anything to do with that little meddling Woody Johnson?
Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't know if I'm sure when you go and spend $110 million on a quarterback for 2 years, you have to clear that over with your owner first. Hey, are we willing to spend money in free agency here to get a star quarterback, or do I need to focus on making a trade? Like, am I in the market for like a Kirk Cousins, or should I try and grab another rookie and, see how that goes? Like, I'm sure he had to clear that over with Woody before ultimately did it. But I think it's absolutely nuts. I mean, we talked about the firing of Saleh earlier in the year. You bring in Devontae Adams for 1 week, and you lose the game against Pittsburgh, and then next thing you know, Robert Saleh's out the door. And it's like, all right, well, fine. I guess somebody has to be the fall guy here. But as far as it goes with Joe, I mean, what else do you want him to do? You talk about, the offensive line, the way it looked last year, and the pieces at least they have this year. I get it. If guys aren't performing things like that, that's one thing. But we can't say that the offensive line isn't improved on paper from where it was at last year. Quarterback position, obviously, he went out and got Aaron Rodgers. He went out and drafted Breece Hall. He got Garrett Wilson, like you mentioned. He went out and traded for Devontae Adams. I mean, he's literally doing everything you want him to do. Defensive side, Quincy Williams, absolute stud. Quinnen, another stud. DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner. Look at almost the entirety of that Jets roster. All of their Pro Bowl or all pro caliber players have been drafted under the Joe Douglas scheme. So it's absolutely nuts that you get rid of that guy and you're starting from scratch. It makes absolutely no sense.
And you didn't even mention Will McDonald or Jermaine Johnson.
Didn't mention either one of them. He also went and signed CJ Mosley as well beforehand.
I will say this. The one thing we can all rag on him for is the Zach Wilson draft. Him drafting Zach Wilson and then coming out of that draft saying Zach Wilson's the best quarterback he's ever seen in the combine ever. That'll be the downfall, right? That'll be the downfall for him.
I get it, but what GM? There's not one GM ever in the history of the sport that shot 100%. So he was wrong, and then he basically came out and said, "Hey, I screwed up. I own that, is it okay if we go get the guy who's a 4-time MVP to bring him to New York to fix that mess up? And he went out and he made it happen.
Kneecap biting, bringing up the fact that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4. The GM and Salah said no. That's why they aren't there anymore. I mean,
if there's truth to that, then that's very interesting. It's very telling.
I'll tell you right now, Woody Johnson needs to let football people do football things. It's the same thing that happens to a lot of organizations, and the other organization that's an absolute dumpster fire right now is the Dallas Cowboys. It is awesome watching them fall apart. Look, I'm not going to be a fanboy on this show, but there's nothing like watching Dallas lose. Shally, is there I'm serious, right? Like if watching the Eagles win is like a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10, what would watching the Cowboys lose be for you?
It's more. I mean, it's especially like great when you have those weekends like where we win a big game and then they lose to somebody they shouldn't. That's like a 14. I love when all their fans go into hiding on social media. It's a great thing. And I think more interesting, Dallas does everything big. You know, they always say everything's bigger in Texas. I just love the way this team's falling apart. This isn't even like, oh, hey, we're losing close games. It's like, hey, we're getting our ass kicked. Our quarterback that we just overpaid for is called on the sideline saying, you know, we effing suck. He then bows out the following week with hamstring surgery. Fuck out of here. And Micah Parsons is sitting on the bench this week just looking like, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. CeeDee Lamb's yelling at people. It's just everything's bigger. It's epic. Like everybody on that team right now wants the season to end. Like every single one of them. Like they all would be like, cool, we'll regroup and see everybody next year. And then you got Mike McCarthy just walking back and forth, being like, I'm just waiting for Jerry to fire me. And then Jerry Jones is just still out there just blowing sunshine up people's asses during interviews where I have faith we're gonna turn this around, we're gonna make the playoffs. Like, dude's delusional. Like it is they've made a couple bad decisions and it's gonna come back to haunt them now.
I think it's absolutely hilarious that the Cowboys, obviously we saw how last year ended, and they quite literally didn't change anything on the roster and like upgrade anywhere on the roster. And they thought they were going to be a better team. They thought they were going to be a Super Bowl caliber team. If I remember correctly, I don't think any of the 3 of us picked the Cowboys to make the playoffs on our preseason show.
I did not.
I know I didn't. I don't think Bill did either.
I don't remember. I might have him in the 6th seed though.
But I mean, that just goes to show you like how delusional Jerry was and also how delusional that fan base can be. I mean, there's no way that you thought not having a number 2 receiver, not having anything at running back, and bringing back in Dak Prescott, who we all thought was overpaid, and you sign him to a long extension. There's no way you thought that was going to lead you to the promised land there. So like this didn't feel like a matter of if, it more so felt like a matter of when. And it was, and you know, they're going to probably look back at this and say, oh, well, Dak was hurt last year. And ultimately that's why we didn't get to where we wanted to go. But the reality is that's not the case. They sucked while Dak was there. They'd be in the exact same boat if Dak was still playing. So I just think it's funny to see their delusion year in and year out.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to watch.
The Dak thing is even more funny because they literally had a chance, still knowing they have to sign Micah behind it. They have CD locked up. They could have got away from Dak.
Easy.
Could have got away from him. Gave him the money anyway. You're like, you are stuck with him now. I think it's becoming more and more evident. I don't think Micah Parsons is Dallas Cowboy next year. I don't.
I mean, he's not doing himself any favors on his podcast and social media. Look, it's so funny to watch that team fall apart.
I will say the one thing, though, with that is I was really thinking about this and, you know, watching different shows, different podcasts and stuff like that. I do think Jerry Jones is the kind of guy, though. We literally, and granted, this is a ton of money, but we just saw the Denver Broncos basically say we're going to eat all of Russell Wilson's money to get him out of town. I'm not saying that they're there yet because they literally just signed that extension, but I'm saying that I don't know if Jerry will stick with that. If that comes back from this hamstring surgery and doesn't look even what he was before, which was a middle of the pack quarterback, then I think there's a good chance that Jerry'd be like, you know what, screw it, take your money, get out of my city.
Well, I don't agree with you, Kneecap Biden, and you say you didn't trust Saleh. I think it's been proven that Robert Saleh wasn't the problem. So you not trusting Saleh. The Jets got worse when they got rid of Saleh.
Every week this goes on, he gets more validation. He's 100%. He was not the issue.
All right, so I do want to ask you guys a question before we move on until the Hall of Fame and preview. Adam Schefter said he's guaranteeing at least 7 coaches will be fired this season, and we did this morning, and I really want to hear your opinions on it. I'm gonna go through some of the teams that are not doing well in the division. Obviously, I'm gonna skip over some easy ones, like the Jets already fired their coach, so that'll be a new coach. If the Miami Dolphins do not make the playoffs, does Mike McDaniel keep his job?
Yes.
New England Patriots, do they make a move at coach next year?
No.
I'm going to go no, but I think that one gets interesting.
I don't think that. So I agree with both of you guys so far. I don't think Gerard Mayo has anything to worry about.
Right?
What?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, he's not getting fired.
But I don't know
that team was going to be a dumpster fire this year.
Drake Mays actually looked really good.
And I agree with that. I think he's, if anything, you're coming out of the season and be like, at least maybe we have our guy.
The only reason why I say there might be that chance there is because I don't know how much they really wanted to hire Gerard Mayo to begin with. It almost felt like he was always built in to be the successor of Bill Belichick, and they had to move on from Bill. But depending on who's on the market, I think could be interesting for them. So I think he's doing with what he has. I think he's been doing a good job there, and I think the future, at least they have like some hope there. But I also feel like there's a 50-50 shot that he wasn't their guy to begin with.
We're in trouble if we're going. This is not even. I don't think this is a struggle, but we're in trouble if that's what we're doing. My question. All right, Cincinnati. Zach Taylor. Does he keep his job if they don't make the playoffs?
I think it's one more year. I think he's done too much.
Last one. Kevin Stefanski in the AFC North.
It's the interesting one for me.
I don't think you can fire a 2-time coach of the year.
Okay. We'll move on. We'll move on.
I don't think they will, but I think you can. That team.
I don't think they do either. So I agree with you guys so far. I don't think there's anything so far I disagree with. Easy one to me in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson. I don't know how he's not already fired.
Fired.
Right? Easy one, right? Callahan keep his job in Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the opportunity to draft his own quarterback, right?
Yep.
All right. Does Antonio Pierce keep his job in Las Vegas?
Yes.
They're in the same boat. They're going to get a quarterback.
So I am not worried. We're moving on to the NFC.
Wait, do you disagree with that, Gene?
No, I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Brian Dable.
I think Brian Dable wants to get fired.
I think Brian Dable keeps his job.
I think they either have to extend Brian Dable and let him draft the quarterback of the future, or they have to fire him.
I think if you're Brian Dable, I think you're going in and be like, if we're not drafting a quarterback in the first round, then I don't want to be here.
I think if I'm Brian Dable, if it comes down to it, I'm going into the owner's office and I'm like, hey, if it was up to me and we still had Saquon Barkley, we'd be a 500 ball club right now. You give me some talent on this team, then I can make it work. You see how he went to the playoffs a couple years ago, even with Daniel Jones. Let me get a quarterback and give me a GM that's competent. So I think I'd throw my GM under the bus.
But normally when they fire the GM picks his new head coach. Just being clear.
I get it. I get it for sure. But I'm just saying, like, I think you could get away with a buffer period if you give him 1 year with the new GM to actually bring in talent and figure it out.
1 year would be a mistake because if you draft a rookie quarterback and you don't see immediate success and you fire him, you've now successfully married a new coach to the quarterback.
But it's not about the I don't think it's about necessarily the success. I'm not saying you have to make the playoffs to get there. Like if he goes a situation where it's like New England, for example, we just talked about him. Like if the rookie quarterback comes in, he's starting to look good. The wins aren't there, but you see the progression, then I think that's a different conversation.
We can all agree McCarthy's gone. In Dallas,
yeah.
he's not coming back.
Foot out the door already.
Okay. Matt Eberflus in Chicago.
Gone.
Gone.
All right, we're easy there. All right. Obviously, New Orleans has already fired their coach. Does Todd Bowles make it through the season if Tampa Bay finishes below 500?
Yes.
Okay. I'm in full agreement there. We'll move over to Carolina. Does Carolina keep Dave Canales?
I say yes.
One. I also say yes.
I agree. And does McVay return next year? And I'm going to preface that by saying, does McVay retire?
I think he's back. I think he coaches at least one more year. I feel like it's going to be very, very linked to what Stafford does.
I completely agree with this. Hey, listen, I want you to stay here, Kneecap Button, because I'm gonna get in one topic real quick. I think that you'll enjoy. You might not like the answer, but you'll enjoy.
I think that the McVay retiring rumors are very much overblown. Like I think he kind of threw that out there. I think McVay coaches for another 10 years at least.
You see, the problem with though is how long is Matt Stafford going to continue coaching football?
I don't disagree. Maybe that he keeps coaching. I don't think he keeps coaching there.
I think he's Sean Payton.
Okay, I can see that too. That too.
My point is, I don't think he wants to go through a rebuild. So again, say Stafford retires in the next year. To Gene's point, I could totally see him be like, you know what, I'm going to walk away for a year or two and do the Sean Payton thing, and then come back and be able to pick my situation. I could see.
I can get behind that. I just don't see McVay like being done with football. Like that's why I say I thought.
I agree with that. I just think I don't think he wants to tear down that team and start over. And that's where Cooper's going to be gone. I guess after this year, I think his contract's up. That's why they're trying to trade him. Obviously, Puka, Kyron Williams turned out to be a star, but starting over with a new quarterback is just, I think that's probably a lot of what he doesn't want to do.
Shit, he didn't start over with Stafford, and they already have a history of saying F those picks. So,
might go out and get another quarterback.
Maybe, yeah. I know a quarterback that they probably won't be in his same home. I don't know if he want to deal with him, but Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking for a new home next year.
Well, maybe watch
that would be wild. I think Aaron Rodgers' new home next year. We actually talked about this morning. I think the perfect fit for him would be the Tennessee Titans. You put him back in the heartland. You put him in a situation. God. I'm serious.
I just don't think Aaron Rodgers would go to a place where he knows he's not winning at 42.
He ain't winning now.
You're right.
He's got two top 10 wide receivers and a top 10 running back, and he can't win now. He's done.
You're 100% right. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers here.
All right, but
I agree with that, and there's parts of me that buy that, but there's also if you watch with your eyes this year, I don't think there's that. I don't think he has that switch to.
Oh, I'm not talking talent. I'm saying him being delusional.
I don't think it's delusional enough for Tennessee not to be a winning franchise with a good quarterback. They have the wide receivers, they have the running backs, they have the defense. Like I just think they don't have the quarterback play. So in his eyes, he might think that. But here's something I wanted to bring up while Kneecap was in the chat. He's a huge Lions fan. And I kind of want to get into this now. And I think that the differentiator between Detroit and Philadelphia is coaching. I've always said that. I said that. That's why I picked Detroit to go to the Super Bowl over the Philadelphia Eagles. But I want to break it down roster-wise. And I wanted to ask you guys' opinions and see if I'm being biased. Because I'm an Eagles fan. But I look at the Eagles roster and I look at the Lions roster. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a better roster. And I don't think there should be much of an argument here. It's very hard for me to find a decided position in which Detroit is better than Philadelphia on the football field at all. Like, I don't think there's one position where you're like, no doubt, it's definitely the Lions. Not one on the whole football field. So
I don't think I would disagree with you, but I think you're also talking about in a lot of these positions. I think you're talking about razor thin margins too.
100%. But let's go through it just for fun.
Right.
And what I did was I broke down the secondary to corners and safeties to help Detroit.
Okay.
I want to help Detroit here.
I don't know if that helps them because
I think it really helps them because Philadelphia's clearly has the better cornerback room. The best two players in the Lions secondary are their safeties. Period.
Which is why I would give them safety. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it would help.
So if you had the entire secondary, you would say wash, right?
I probably would lean Philly, to be honest. But
okay, that's fair. I would lean Philly. D-line, first of all, wide receiver is definitely not better than Detroit. We'll talk. We'll get there in a second.
He said it's better than the Lions.
Okay, got it. D-line is better than the Lions. Okay, there you go. So secondary, I'll just say, let's just be fair and say wash.
Okay.
I would, going into this year, I would say linebackers was Detroit easily. After watching the Eagles linebackers this year, I think the Eagles have a better linebacking core. I think the Eagles linebackers with Bond and Dean are better than the Lions. I look at that and I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not, and I want to make sure I'm not being biased, but Zach Bond might be the best linebacker in football right now. Like, it's insane.
I think that's.
I'm saying this year.
You were doing.
Let me see his PFF rating. Let me see his PFF rating.
Who cares about PFF, bro?
Yeah, I don't
watch
care.
Eyes. He's not better than Roquan Smith. Just stop. Like,
okay, that's fine.
He's having.
Zach Bond is second in the NFL this year.
You were on point. You were on point. You were razor sharp like an arrow, and you went goofy.
Okay, I said this year playing. Zach Bond has been almost spotless this year. I'm not saying he's better than Roquan Smith going forward. What I'm saying is this year he's the number 2 rated linebacker PFF.
All right, and PFF is all over PFF. We've talked about this numerous times.
It's fair. Yeah. Okay, so
he's having a great year, and I wouldn't argue that their linebackers are better. Keep going.
Okay,
keep rolling.
Defensive line is really close now that Aiden's not there. If Aiden was there, I would have said edge to Detroit. Now that Aiden's not there, it's like, do you want DJ Reader or you want Jalen Carter? Like, do you want Zadarius Smith or Josh Sweat? The way Sweat's been playing the last 6 weeks has been insane. Zadarius Smith just got there. I don't know, and I would consider this a slight edge to Philadelphia, but I would love to hear your points.
With Aiden, Detroit, and I don't think it's like I can say Detroit. I'm not going to say it's not close, but I can say Detroit definitively. Without Aiden, I'd go Eagles, and it's really because of the interior. I mean, obviously you got Huff and you got Sweat, but I mean, I just think as a whole that unit's better than the Lions without Aiden.
Correct. And I think Nolan Smith has played out of his mind recently. He's finally turning into the first round draft pick we wanted him to be. It's not just, and Bryce Huff's going to be out for a little while, but I think as a whole, Philadelphia has really improved on their D-line. Let's get into the offensive line. Now, the offensive line is the biggest strength of the Detroit Lions, 100%. They have Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow. If the Lions are 1 in O-line, the Eagles are 2. They're 2. You have Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson. Cam Jurgens has played out of his friggin' mind this year. And in your right guard position, Mekhi Becton has played great at right guard. Great at right guard. I'm not saying Philadelphia's O-line is decisively better or even better than Detroit's. I'd probably give the edge to Detroit here. But it's an edge. It's no longer a certainty.
I think it's a certainty, especially because you say Mailata, and Mailata is he back yet?
Yes, he's back. He was back last week.
Yeah,
and by the way, he's been the best left tackle in football when he's played. It's not me saying that.
I think it's close. And again, I think you're talking versus 1 versus 2, but I think Detroit's 1.
Yeah, but PFF takes into account the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whoa! Don't
PFF said the Chiefs are 2 and the Lions and the Eagles are 3. I'm saying PFF says Checker Fred's been starting 5 games and his rating is so low it actually pulls the Eagles' rating down. Just to be clear, that's all I'm saying.
But
I'm saying the Eagles' starting unit.
The Chiefs haven't had their starting unit for a large majority of the year.
That's not what I said.
I
saying
know, but I'm just saying
our
like that.
rating
That
is
also
down because our depth is not as good.
But I'm saying the Chiefs have also been missing pieces and they're rated ahead of you guys. And this isn't me saying the Chiefs have the better offensive line. I'm just saying you can't just cherry pick it because guys are
We'll
missing.
go
Because the
edge to
Chiefs are missing
line,
people
right?
too.
Edge.
Okay.
How much? Edge.
Yeah, I can say.
Would you rather have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley?
See, it's a tough one.
I agree it's tough. I would rather have Saquon. Now, maybe I'm an Eagles fan, but Saquon's unfriggin' real.
I mean, Saquon is obviously the best of the three. It's not close.
Correct.
But
the difference between 3 and 4 is a mile away.
Correct. You're
right.
talking about 1A and 1B, and then whoever we decide to throw out there.
We're basically saying A, B, C, W. I get it. I understand.
Fair.
I get it.
Again, so you're. It's hard for me not to say, all right, well, if you're giving me A, B, and C, and I can choose A, I'm going to choose A. But having B and C is what allows them to do a lot of the things that they do. And
agreed.
Again,
but Saquon's taken 78% of the Eagles snaps. So you're only worrying about F playing 22% of snaps.
I know, but I'm saying a lot of how they line up and their formations, it allows them to break tendency a lot. And you're hearing a lot of coaches talk about it. It's not like when Jahmyr Gibbs comes in, it's his rookie year. Like, all right, they're probably going to they might throw something out in the flat, or they might throw a screen. Sorry, excuse me. Like, he's running the ball between the tackles now. Like it's what's really allowed that offense to be versatile and hard to game plan again. But again, if you're asking me if you're lining those three players up and you're saying you could take any one of them, I'm going to take Saquon.
What would you rather have, the Lions running back room or the Eagles?
I would go Lions running back room, only because of one, the versatility, but two, just what it can do for the offense in general. Kind of like Bill was alluding to, like you bring those guys in for certain packages, and it's almost gotten to the point now where they don't even look at it. It feels like they don't even look at the packages anymore. It's like, all right, we're going to run this running back screen to David Montgomery, and last year you'd have been like, hey, that's got to go to Gibbs. He's a pass catcher. He's more elusive, things like that. And now they're on the goal line. It's like, all right, last year, David Montgomery, you're the guy. If Gibbs is already in that drive, they're like, hey, we're on the one. Gibbs, punch it in for us. We're not worried about you doing that. So I go Lions, but it's a slight lean, and it's really only because, like, even just looking at it from like a number standpoint.
Okay.
I wonder what the difference would be, like Saquon's numbers versus Jahmyr and David Montgomery's numbers put together.
The reason I'll before Gene jumps back in here, the reason I would take Saquon simply is, out of the three of them, he is the only one that has the ability to absolutely take over a football game by himself.
Wide receiving room, I think the Philadelphia Eagles win this. But if you combine wide receivers and tight ends, if you separate it, I can see you giving the edge at tight end to Detroit with Laporta over Goddard. I don't see it that way. I think Detroit just uses Laporta better than the Eagles use Goddard. Like, I don't think talent-wise, like, Laporta is just so much better than Goddard. But receivers alone, A.J. Brown and Smitty over Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams. And then if you go in the slot, you got Jahan Dotson. I'm taking the Eagles 1, 2, 3 over the Lions 1, 2, 3. And I don't think it's that close.
I'm definitely taking the Eagles. I think you're doing a little disservice to Detroit a little bit. I mean, I think the problem with Jamison Williams is obviously staying on the freaking field and staying out of trouble.
Yeah.
And B, consistency. But I mean, I think it was last week or the week before, he had a monster game. The ability is there. Devonta, again, I think Devonta is the more consistent receiver, but we struggle to get him the ball.
Yeah, but AJ's better than Amon-Ra, and Devonta's better than Jamison. So could we just agree the Eagles have the better receiving core?
I'm agreeing. I'm just saying I feel like you're saying the margin is a little bit bigger than I think it is in reality.
That's fair. Cottrell?
Going with the Eagles too. I think their receiving core is better as a whole. I would take AJ before I took Amon-Ra, but I will say Amon-Ra has definitely been, I don't want to say gaining my respect, because I feel like that would be doing him a disservice.
He's incredible.
But when I thought about number one receivers, there was probably like 8 or 9 guys I would take before Amon-Ra, and I don't know if that's still the case now.
That's fair. I have AJ
I mean, he's
4 or 5. I have Amon-Ra 7. It's not like it's a crazy number.
I should say he's top 10 no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, I'm saying before this emergence of him, even like at the middle point of last year, I'm like, hey, well, he's getting 100, 160 targets. He should have a ton of numbers.
You're not going to find a bigger Jameson Williams supporter. I drafted him in a ton of leagues. I know how good he is. I watched him peel out Georgia in the the SEC championship game. Like, you're not going to find an advocate for Jameson Williams that's not a Lions fan more than me. You're not taking him over Smitty. Like, that's not real. Okay. And then you get to quarterback. And this is where I think that you're never going to get a straight answer out of an Eagles fan or a Lions fan because their offense is predicated and ran differently. Look, I'm on the Jalen Hurts roller coaster with the rest of Philadelphia Eagles fans. His highs are incredible. Like, his peak is better than Jared Goff's peak. But the consistency of Jared Goff, the efficiency of running the offense, I understand that. I understand a debate against Jared Goff or Jalen Hurts. Maybe it's Homer. Maybe it's because I'm starting to see more of him figure out ways to make plays and what he does with his legs. I'm taking Jalen Hurts over Jared Goff.
I'm taking Jalen Hurts as well. For me, I think, and granted, this isn't like a hate thing or just me nitpicking one game. I think Jared Goff, like the 5 interception game, like that, even on Jalen's worst day, and you may say, oh, the game against the playoff game against the Bucks where he can't figure out how to, beat man-to-man coverage, cover zero, things like that. I just don't think you're going to get like those kinds of performances out of him. And granted, it was a one-off thing, that kind of thing. But I think if I'm looking at the two, if I want both of them at their absolute best, I'm taking Jalen. If I have to deal with both of them at their absolute worst, I'd prefer to deal with Jalen at his absolute worst than deal with Goff at his absolute worst.
I just think Goff's more consistent. And I think that you've seen one bad game from Jared Goff and 7 really good ones. And then there's probably like a sprinkle of 2 games where he's okay. Shally, I think, will go on the other end of this. Shally, you're on it. You're not on Jalen Hurts here, right? You're on Jared Goff. You've been a big Jared Goff supporter.
If you would have asked me 4 weeks ago, I would have took Goff.
I know. That's why I'm shocked. This is the debate here. Now, just to be Jeremy, pay attention, Jeremy, because I'm about to make you really smile in a minute.
4 weeks ago, I think I would have took Goff.
Okay.
I think Jalen now playing within the system, playing for a good OC that knows what the hell he's doing, and putting him in positions to win and succeed. I think you're starting to see a better picture of what he really is and really what he can be. The only thing I would push back on is, especially since Goff's been in Detroit, you talk about the 5 interception game. That's fine. That's the throw off. If you're giving them to me at their basement, I've never seen Jared Goff complete 35% of his passes in a game. I would take Goff there. But if you're asking me, if you're going percentile of their performance, if you're giving me anything from 80 and above, then I do agree with both of you. I think Jalen, with what he can do with his feet, gives him that slight edge, and I think his ceiling is a little bit higher. I would take Hurts.
So the reason I bring all this up is because you ask any guys, any people that have watched football, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC, and the Eagles are the second best team in the NFC. And it's clear to anyone that's watched football this year, the Lions are the best team in the NFC. There's no debate about it. The Eagles barely beat the Jaguars, held on, won 28-22. The Lions absolutely obliterated them. The Lions have 1 loss. The Eagles have 2. The reason that this gap is where it's at, with lack of talent, and I'm not saying that Detroit lacks talent. They're a strong, talented team. But if we're being completely honest, Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell over. I mean, I take Vic over Aaron Glenn. I really would. I think Fangio is the better defensive coordinator, but Ben Johnson is the next hottest head coach. And I'm sorry, no offense, Nick, but give me Dan Campbell by a long shot over Nick Sirianni.
All day.
And I do want to answer this question. John, I implore you to watch more of what I said. Just to be clear, hating on Bo Nix is really, really a stretch. Because what I said was he was Drew Brees-like, and that's what Sean Payton needs. And he'll take time to develop in Denver. Now, he's developed a lot quicker than I expected him to develop. He's playing great football. I think he's a perfect fit for what Sean Payton wants to do. All you have to do is watch the draft. All you have to do is watch our draft watch along. John, I know you watch a lot of our shows. I've never hated on him. He is a 5+ year college quarterback. That's what he's been. It's not a lie. Coaching is clearly Detroit, Cottrell, right? You're getting real quiet on me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rolling with Detroit there. I mean, you look at even with Kellen Moore, I think he's done a good job with the offense, and I think he's a good fit for the offense, especially bringing in Saquon and then having Jalen's ability to run the football as well. But you look at Ben Johnson on the other side, and I saw Jared Goff with Sean McVay, who was touted as the greatest thing the NFL has seen offensively since sliced bread, and with good reason. I love McVay's scheme, and this isn't to shit on him, but I saw what Jared Goff looked like while he was there, and I see what he looks like with Ben Johnson, and it's a night and day thing. And granted, it didn't work out for the Rams with Goff, and they got Staffy and they won a Super Bowl, and that's great. But I also seen Jared Goff get traded to the Lions, who at the time was considered basically purgatory, and it felt like they were just sending him off to die. And he went and made an actual career for himself and became their franchise quarterback. And it's crazy. It's crazy to say.
I'm just being very clear when I say this. I still think Detroit goes to the Super Bowl in the NFC. But with that being said, I'm happy the Philadelphia Eagles are playing good football, and they seem to be getting behind their coaches. I just want to be clear. I don't want to get that mixed up. And for John, I don't want to get mixed up at all. I said Bo Nix would just take more time to develop. I didn't think he was as talented as Caleb and Jaden. But I will say this. He's developed great under what Sean Payton has done. He's well ahead of any Richter scale would have put him on.
They haven't beat a good team yet.
It's fair.
I'm literally looking at it right now.
I'd also say as well as Jaden is playing, Caleb obviously hasn't looked good so far. Every rookie quarterback would kill their firstborn to have Sean Payton as their head coach, like to learn from offensive mind wise, and to work with. I think Bo's in a absolutely great situation, but I'd love to see what Bo would look like with Eberflus or Caleb with Sean. I know you can't do the hypotheticals and all that, but I do think situation definitely matters, especially in year one.
I think situation matters. And again, I mean, if you're looking at their record right now, I would say arguably the Falcons are the best team that they've beat. They've lost
I do want to address
the
this.
Ravens.
The bad decisions that Dan Campbell has made cost them probably an NFC Championship game. This year, you're right. He's been a lot better with them, but he also made a really bad decision in a game that almost cost him a game, just to be clear. So let's not pretend that Dan Campbell doesn't make any bad decisions. Every coach does. Sorry to interrupt you, Bill.
No, you're good. I mean, again, I think Bo is absolutely, played above his weight class. And again, I think that's credit to Bo. It's also Bo being, having the experience he has coming out of college. And again, that's the Sean Payton effect. And that is why Sean Payton wanted to get him. It's to your point, he's a Drew Brees-like quarterback. He's a guy that's going to excel throwing the ball 10 yards and under from the line of scrimmage all the time and being accurate and running an up-tempo type offense. That's what he is. That's what Sean Payton, had in Drew Brees, and Drew Brees ended up being, one of the best throwers of the football in the history of football. I don't know if Bo's going to get there, but he's the same. He's the same type of quarterback, though. That's correct. He's a guy that gets the ball out of his hand early and he's accurate. That's what Sean Payton wants. That's how he runs his offense. So that doesn't change the fact that they haven't beat a good football team this year. They're both things can be true.
All right, so guys, we have the Hall of Fame list for the NFL. We're going to go over the NFL list and the MLB list, and then we'll get into a small preview before Pick'em, then trivia. So if anybody's waiting for trivia, it will get here. We'll get it here. Just having some good conversation, good fun talk. Now, just as the first look, obviously we're going to have a little bit deeper conversations with this NFL Hall of Fame class. It's just been released. So first look, I just want you to say 3 names that you really believe will get in this time. And, however you want to look at this list, and screw what you think as far as should. 3 names you think should get in, not 3 names that you think will get in. So like guys that you just really, you believe should get in. Is that fair?
I got my 3 locked and loaded.
Oh, fire away.
All right, so I'll go 1 with Antonio Gates. I thought he should have been a first ballot from last year. One of the best tight ends to ever play the game. I mean, top 4 or 5, however you slice it. It's one of the best to literally ever do it. So no doubt about it there. My second one's going to be Steve Smith Sr. I think with the production that he had, I think he's like close to 14,000 yards, like one of the most, some of the most all time. And I think he was very dominant in his earlier years. And I believe that with the longevity of his career, he should definitely get in this time around as well. And then my last one's going to be Marshall Yanda, guard from the Ravens. As a Browns fan, I got to see him play a lot. He was one of, if not the best guard in football for a long stretch of time. Think he should be in the Hall, and I think it's his time to go in. But those are the 3 that stuck out to me right away.
In the interest of not picking the same players as you, because I'll be very clear with you, I think that Antonio Gates 100% should be in, and I think Marshall Yanda is a lock, right? So like those are 2. In the interest of not picking the same players as you, I'm also going to add Terrell Suggs. I think on this list, the way T Sizzle played at linebacker, I think he's basically the better version of James Harrison. I think both of them will eventually get in, but I think Terrell Suggs being on this list, you're going to get him first before you get, and then just taking it a step further. I'm nothing against anyone else, but I think Luke Kuechly was one of the best linebackers, and I think that Luke Kuechly should be a linebacker that's on this finalist list. I think he'll be one of the guys. Now, the shortened career will hurt him, but his overall, stats per year and the way he played the football game at his level, he was elite. Now, Hall of Fame is you look at the Adrian Peterson's longevity, but when you look at guys like Frank Gore, total numbers, total stats, he was never better than a Marshall Faulk, never better than a LaDainian Tomlinson, never better than a Derrick Henry or a Christian McCaffrey, but his longevity is there. Where I think Luke Kuechly will get you is his peak was better than almost anyone on this list.
Well, I mean, his peak was pretty much his whole career, and that's pretty much the argument. I mean, he went from 0 to 100 and stayed 100 for 8 or 9 years and retired. So, obviously, I think Gates gets in. I'm not trying to repeat him, but I think there's only a certain amount of people here that really have a legitimate shot to get in. But in the same categories as Antonio Gates, I think Jared Allen is the guy that got close last year. And I think he possibly gets in this year. Antonio Gates already mentioned. Luke Kuechly was obviously number 1 on my list. I think he gets in absolutely. I think the other interesting name for me is Reggie Wayne. I think see how much backing he kind of gains from last year to this year. Kind of played 1B to Harrison for all those years with Peyton Manning, and it still had a really good couple years after Harrison left. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Reggie Wayne gets in. And then obviously, the argument becomes Reggie Wayne or Torrey Holt. I think that's pretty much where we're at, and obviously Yanda. But I would love Hines Ward to get in. I'm a big Hines guy. I just don't know if or when we're going to see it. I don't think we see it this year.
I'm going to say this out loud. Eli better not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Eli Manning better not be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's gonna get,
and Hines Ward better not get in before Steve Smith or Reggie Wayne.
I agree with that.
I don't disagree with that.
Or Anquan. Shit, almost every receiver on this list.
I don't say Anquan.
He's better than Anquan.
He's better than Anquan.
Stop it.
Stop
it right now. Anquan Bolden was a better receiver than Hines Ward.
I disagree.
Eli thing is going to be really interesting. I think he's going to get a lot of push. I really do. I think he's one of those guys that those Super Bowls is going to put him. Those Super Bowls are going to cover up for a lot of, I don't want to say ugly stats.
Can't be first ballot, bro.
I don't disagree. I don't think he should be first ballot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is.
If he's the first ballot Hall of Famer, then you open the floodgates for people moving behind him.
Don't disagree. I'm just telling you, played in New York, has a gazillion friends within the NFL.
He's not a top 40 quarterback in football and be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not a top 40 quarterback. And that's insane to think that he'll be first ballot.
Bro, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm telling you the way these things work, and he has 2 Super Bowl rings. He beat debatably, the best team ever. And it's just he's gonna get a lot of push. I hope that he doesn't get in first ballot because I agree. I don't think he's a first ballot guy. But we all know how championships and all that stuff works, and even some behind the scenes politics with this stuff. So it would be I'll just say I won't be shocked when they start announcing and that guy starts knocking on people's doors, which is one of my favorite things of the year. I love that guy. I don't know his name. But I love him.
I think the only other interesting name on here is arguably the greatest retired kicker of all time.
Adam Vinatieri
is on this list. Like
he's definitely gonna get in.
Your specialists take time, and I understand that, but I don't know what else he would have needed to do in that specific position to, ultimately get in.
The problem you're having right now is these classes are getting stronger and stronger because, for lack of a better term, I know me and Gino are a little bit older, but you're starting to see all the elite players that we watched growing up. They're all retired and they're all starting to show up on these lists now, and it's going to get talking about guys. I'm just saying,
growing up, a lot of these guys on the list. This is my era of growing up. You were already grown when these guys were playing.
Nah, some of these guys were playing when I was still in my late 20s and stuff.
Rookie year.
Well, they're still playing. Statement's still true.
There's so many guys.
I'm just saying there's so many elite guys that are going to join these lists the next couple of years. It's going to be nuts. It's really going to be interesting.
We got 3 absoluters games that we have to get into this week. We'll obviously talk more about the Hall of Fame as it gets closer. When they name the finalists, we'll get there. But we got 3 absoluters this week. Absolute games you just need to get a quick breakdown on. Not going to be crazy, obviously. If you want to get a full breakdown of it, sideline to sideline, will be tomorrow night. You can check us out. We'll give a full breakdown NFL. But first game on the docket is the 4:00 game. The Green Bay Packers are hosting the San Francisco 49ers. And this is a football game in which it feels like it's really important for San Fran to get this win. San Fran losing last week at home versus Seattle, on the road at Green Bay. That team looks like it's ripping at the seams. This looks like a spot in which they got to go out and get a win. Green Bay survived a block kick. And we see what happens after teams survive block kicks to win the game the next week, what happened with Kansas City. What do you think of this week? I'll be very clear here. I like San Francisco to win this football game, to go into Green Bay and win the game. I think they'll find a way to do it. I think they're the better overall team. So I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers in this game. I think they win outright.
I'm rolling with the Pack here. I think the Packers have looked like the better football team so far this season. I think with the 49ers and Kittle being injured has definitely played a big part.
I don't know why he said this. Ayuk said he's playing earlier.
Ayuk obviously missing him earlier, tore his ACL. This offense hasn't looked the same, and I honestly think Brock Purdy is not 100% healthy. And I know it's NFL, our guys are banged up and stuff like that, but Purdy hasn't looked himself in a few weeks either. So I think that the Packers are going to be able to run the ball rather consistently, and I think they'll be able to take care of business against this 49ers team at home.
I'm gonna go with San Fran. To Gene's point, I think this is a must-win game. It's almost a playoff game for San Fran. They have to win this game. They had the Seattle game. You know, they lost the Seattle game with 30 seconds to go, something like that. They had that win in the bag. And I do agree with Gene. I think coming off, when you win the game off a block kick, there's weird stats that support them almost losing all the time the following week. It's weird. But I think the urgency for San Fran just has to be there. I think I don't want to say get back on track. They've looked okay, but Green Bay hasn't really blown anybody's doors off either. So just for sheer will and urgency and what it means, I think San Fran pulls out a nail biter at Lambeau.
I actually think that this is one of those games in which I'd be really happy to be wrong about. I'm rooting for Green Bay here. Anytime you can see San Fran can take another peg down, that's a good thing. I don't want to see that team healthy getting in the playoffs. I just don't. But I think that San Fran wins the football game. Next game is Sunday Night Football. Actually, Eagles-Rams is a game to talk about, but I can't skip over just quickly. Arizona-Seattle is basically for the division right now. I don't want to skip this over. Just quickly, who do you guys got in Arizona-Seattle?
Arizona. I think they're playing good football, and Kyler's been playing well. It's in Seattle.
I'll still go Arizona. Screw it.
I like Seattle in this football game. I think Seattle playing at home. The only thing I'm worried about is the letdown game going on with after just beating San Fran, but I'll take Seattle at home. I think that Mike McDonald's done a great job with that team. Their defense is getting healthier.
Kyler Murray is quietly having a top 8 quarterback season this year.
It's fair. Philadelphia at Los Angeles, Sunday Night Football. The Los Angeles Rams right now sit atop the NFC West. The Philadelphia Eagles sit atop the NFC East. Sunday Night Football. Spread's only 2.5. It's moved to 3 now. Who do you guys like, Eagles at Rams?
I like the Eagles. I think the Rams are fortunate to be sitting atop the West of a kind of, I don't want to say watered down, but obviously with San Francisco having all the injury issues and things of that nature they've had all this year, they've kind of been fortunate to sit in the spot that they're sitting. Still a good football team, don't get me wrong, but I think what the Rams want to do offensively, I think the Eagles are going to be able to shut down. And I think Jalen in that offense is going to be able to put up points on that defense. So I like the Eagles to go on the road and win.
I like the Eagles as well here. I think this is going to be kind of an ugly game. I think you're going to see McVay and Kellen Moore ultimately struggle a little bit trying to figure out how to get the big chunk plays on these defenses. And I think you're going to see a lot of long drives here. But ultimately, I think with the Eagles' way to run the ball and run the ball effectively, and with the advantages that the Eagles have outside, I think they'll be able to do enough to win this football game. I think, like I said, I think it's a lower scoring game, but ultimately I like the Eagles to pull it out on the road and take care of business.
I'll tell you something I'm really looking forward to in this matchup, right? I'm really looking forward to Quinyon Mitchell on the outside versus Puka Nacua, and I'm really looking forward to Cooper DeJean on the inside versus Cooper Kupp. I think these are going to be just fun matchups with rookie cornerbacks versus elite wide receivers. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I like the Eagles in this football game because I think the Eagles offense will be able to move the ball versus the Rams defense. But I will say this, the schedule makers have been really good to Philadelphia. What I mean is this, Philadelphia is traveling to Los Angeles. So you would think that the Eagles are traveling across the country. Well, what you forget is the Eagles played on Thursday night, and the Rams are traveling back from New England, in which they played last week. So that advantage kind of looks towards Philadelphia. And then Monday night, next week, the Eagles have to travel to Baltimore to play the Ravens in Baltimore. Well, Monday night, Baltimore is going to be in the same city Philadelphia is going to be. They're going to be traveling back the same time. Baltimore at the Chargers, game of the week, great Monday Night Football game. Jim Harbaugh has done an absolute phenomenal job with the Los Angeles Chargers. They're in peak playoff position. Ravens at Chargers.
I actually like Baltimore here. I think the Chargers have done a great job of containing certain people and winning all the close games that they should have. You know, I think we all agreed Harbaugh was going to make a difference. I don't think we all thought it was going to be this year one. I thought you're going to see a lot of this year too. Jesse Minter, the DC, has just proven he is. He's probably going to be on the short list for a lot of people to be a head coach next year. Has a defense playing great. Herbert's playing within the system. They're running the ball first with an Ohio State guy nonetheless, which makes it all kind of more interesting. But they're a tough, solid football team. Yeah. They will continue to get better as they get more skilled players. I think Baltimore coming off a tough loss though. I think it's and the Chargers coming off a crazy win over Cincinnati. I think it's a better spot for Baltimore minus, even with the travel included. I think Lamar Jackson and company get back on track and they win a tough one out in LA.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. Coming off of a tough loss, Ravens weren't able to do what they like to do. Lamar wasn't able to, escape the pocket, make the big time plays. They also turned the ball over a ton, in that game against the Steelers. And, this Charger defense has been playing great. One of the best defenses statistically, in all of the NFL here. And I do think they will take a lot of that and, apply it to playing Lamar. But with that said, I mean, I think it's easy to shut things down on paper and, watch film and put together that game plan. But Lamar and Derrick Henry having, back-to-back games of really just lack of production on offense, I just don't see that happening here. So I think the Ravens get back on track with a win in LA.
I do remember that, Mr. Gallo. Remember when Extra said Quinyon was a reaching a bad pick?
I don't remember that. I thought we said that he was falling and he was
not
like
us.
West corner in the draft.
No, not us.
Talking about the on TV.
I mean,
some of the pundits that get paid to be wrong.
Guys, let's get into pick 'em real quick, and then we'll get into trivia. We'll knock out pick 'em, and then we'll go trivia. I had an absolutely brutal week. After a 3-0 week, I went 0-3, and I was really rolling. I was heading the right direction, and I took a tailspin backwards. I'm last place on this list. So what are we doing, Control?
We keeping the order the same. Just had 3-0 week. I gotta continue to build off of that.
21-12 is special, bro. Special.
It's picking like 70%.
So, and it's wild because I'm under 500 in college. Like this is just
same.
Just weird. But this week I got some boring picks for you guys. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking at the schedule and I'm like, you know what? The boring picks just seem like the most likely to hit this week. So, with that said, the first one, I like the Chiefs minus 10.5 at the Panthers. Panthers have been playing better as of late now that Bryce is back, their starting quarterback. But the Chiefs coming off their first loss of the season, I think they're going to try and figure out the offense and run it up on that Carolina Panthers team. Second game I like, it's been hard not to pick the Lions whenever they're playing a bad team, and I'm doing it this week. Lions minus 7.5 at the Colts. I think they're going to go into that game saying, hey, Anthony Richardson's going to have to beat us with his arm, and we all know he's not capable of doing that. So I like the Lions there to cover that 7.5 point spread there. And then my last game, I kind of alluded to it when we were doing the previews there, but I like the under 48.5 Eagles at Rams. I really don't think the Rams are going to be able to move the ball that effectively where they're putting the ball in the end zone. The Eagles have done a great job this year of being a bend but don't break defense. So even if you can move the ball on them, they do a great job of forcing field goals down there in the red zone. And on the flip side of it, I think the Eagles are going to do a lot of running the football against this Rams team, and that's going to choose some clock there. So I like that under 48.5 number.
All righty. I'm going to start down to Houston. Tennessee Titans at Houston, Texas. Houston's pretty much almost full strength now, coming off a big win at Dallas, minus 7 at home. I will take the Texans there. I thought the spread would be a lot bigger, if I'm being honest. We already talked about this game. The next two games we already talked about, actually. Philadelphia minus 2.5 at the Rams. I like the Eagles there for all the reasons I explained earlier, so I'm sticking with them. And the last game, I'm taking Baltimore minus 3 at the Chargers. Like I said, I think as good as the Chargers defense is, it's not quite the athletic defense that Pittsburgh had. I do think Lamar will be able to get out and make a couple more plays. And I think Baltimore gets back on track. I think they win a very good game. but I think they cover the 3 in LA.
All right, so my picks are rather ugly. I'll start and get one out of the way because I'm directly opposite of Cottrell. Give me the Colts plus 7.5 at home versus the Lions. I think the Lions will win. I think the Colts will cover. I think Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen's offense keeps this game a lot closer, and Jared Goff's home road splits are just a little bit different. He's definitely a better quarterback at home than he is on the road. So I'll take the Colts plus 7.5 in an ugly one in which they cover. Second game, I got Thursday night action. Give me the Browns plus 4 at home versus Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson's looked worse every week he's been the starter. He's gotten consistently worse, and I think that Browns defense and that rivalry game will get Cleveland up for this one. I like the Browns plus 4. Steelers might win this game by a field goal. I think the Browns cover it. And then the last game, I feel like this is such a square pick. I hate picking square picks, but there's not a bigger dumpster fire in the NFL than the Dallas Cowboys. Give me the Commanders minus 10.5 with extra rest at home to really take it to the Dallas Cowboys. I think that Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn gets back at his old team. Give me the Commanders minus 10.5 over the Dallas Cowboys.
One thing I say, obviously we went against each other on that pick there. I think Jared Goff's home and away splits are a big deal, but they're playing in a dome this week. And I think a big part of that is, him not liking to play outside. So,
well, he's going to have to learn how to do that playing in that division with the Green Bay Packers head up.
You're not wrong. You were not wrong.
And Chicago, too. But let's get into trivia. Let me turn my chat off.
All right, gentlemen.
Off. As you can see, we did have a conversation about this. The numbers are correct. 12, 10, 4. That's where we're at. Cottrell's given the question. Gene versus Shally. Heavyweight battle. I'm due for a loss. We'll see where we're at.
All right. So in honor of us talking a lot of Hall of Fame today, I took it to guys who aren't in the Hall of Fame. So we're going to baseball. Going top 10 leaders in hits, not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, God. Shally, congratulations. Congratulations.
I think you're selling yourself short, Gene.
Top 10 leaders in hits that are not in the Hall of Fame.
They may be on the ballot this year, but they are, as of today, as of 11/20, they are not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's fair, but when you say Jesus Christ, you do realize that I've barely looked at the ballot, to say the least. I'm prepared. I'm ready to rock and roll. How many active players on the list? Any active players on the list?
There is not one active.
Okay. Did Miggy get in last year? I'll go Miguel Cabrera.
Miguel Cabrera is number 3 on this list.
That's such a bad guess. The fact I said Miguel Cabrera didn't get in last year.
I'll go Ichiro.
Ichiro is number 5 on this list. Would you guys like the numbers as well?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So Miggy is at 3,174 hits. Ichiro is at 3,089 hits.
Albert Pujols.
Albert Pujols is number 2 on this list, and he's at 3,384 hits.
Okay.
I'll go A-Rod.
A-Rod is coming in at number 4 on the list, and he's at, let's see here, 3,115 hits.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, number 7 on the list. See, Gene, you're selling yourself
I'm just
short,
thinking
man.
of juicers. That's all I'm doing. I'm thinking of guys that aren't in, not because of accolades, but because they juiced.
Barry Bonds is at 2,935.
Oh, my God. I can't believe I'm an idiot. I'm such a moron.
I'll go Pete Rose.
Yes, that's why I said I'm a moron. I'm thinking of guys that cheated the game, and I'm like, oh, shit. Pete Rose.
I was actually, I couldn't believe that you guys took that long on Pete. But yes, of course, Pete's number 1, 42.56.
I knew immediately. There was a second. It was like the light bulb that clicked remember when you got Joel Embiid for the MVP? I was like, oh, God damn it. And as soon as I said, God damn it, Shally goes, I'll take the guy Gene's talking about. What's it? 4-3 already? Or 7? Or no, it's
No, it's
tied. I
3-3.
went first.
3-3.
Yeah.
Let's go with the big hurt, Frank Thomas.
Frank Thomas is not on this list.
Okay.
He's in the Hall of Fame, isn't he?
I don't know. I thought he wasn't in because of steroids. Bro, if you asked me to pinpoint Hall of Famers, I would have zero idea what baseball.
I will go.
I'm literally just going to give you steroid era users. That's where I'm at.
Oh, Rafael Palmeiro.
Rafael Palmeiro is number 6 on the list, and he is at 3,020 hits.
Rafi. Okay. Now I'm squinting right now. I'm trying to just get.
You guys got the top 7. The last 3, I'd say, of the list are the hardest 3 on the list.
Okay.
I think I know one of them.
Joe Jackson.
Joe Jackson is not on this list.
God damn it. Just thinking guys achieved the game. If you haven't followed my strategy, I don't know what you're doing at home. I'm like, oh, he's suspended for baseball forever. Yeah, that guy.
He's played forever. I'm gonna go with Vizquel.
Omar Vizquel is number 8, and he is at 2,877 hits. Gene, you need this to stay alive.
Yeah, well, I know.
One of these.
I'm just thinking of steroid users. I'm kind of stuck here, if I'm being honest. Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa is not on this list.
So I could sweep the board here. No strikes.
If he gets this one, it is, over.
I will go with Carlos Beltran.
Carlos Beltran is a great guess, but he is not on this list. He is 11. He is number 12 on the list.
Albert Bell.
Albert Bell is not on this list.
Okay. Just wanted to add a little Cleveland Indian for him.
Hey, we got Omar already. I'm good.
That's fair. Bro, I'm just literally going to name great baseball players, and I have no idea. You're like, he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. My bad.
It's not a bad strategy.
Probably goes. Albert Bell's a good one.
I got one. I think I have one.
Right.
All right. We're gonna give you. I'll give you 5 more seconds here. I'll give you 15 seconds.
I don't think McGuire had that many, but I'll go with McGuire.
Mark McGuire is not on the list.
Manny Ramirez,
great guess. Also not on the list.
God damn it.
You should have waited. We could have got hints there. Now I have to go again.
You're right. I should have.
I can give you out for the hints. I'll give you guys the years that they played because teams, I think, would make it too easy.
I will go.
You can just get it here, and we don't have to worry about hints.
Maybe I will go. I'll go Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield is also another really good guess. He's not on the list here. So, do we want the years?
Yeah, of course. I want anything I can get.
All right. So, number 10 is a guy that played 1958 to 1975.
All right, we're not getting that one. It's the race to get this other guy. Well, that means if Gene doesn't get that guy, though, I win though. So
that is true. And then number 9, he played from 1995 to 2012.
That should be doable. Now, let me ask you a question real quick. Is the number 10 gettable?
If I'm being 100% honest with you guys,
I've never heard of him.
I had never heard of him before. But to be fair,
wait, which guy?
Number 10.
Number 10.
58 to 75.
I never heard of the guy. But to be fair,
it's amazing.
We had actually had a conversation. I think Alex had sent like a baseball picture or something to our group message, and I had asked, I was like, am I casual for not knowing who this one guy? I'm like, I know everybody else is on this list. I asked, and I was like, am I casual for not knowing this guy? And Bill's like, well, I mean, he is in the Hall of Fame, so take it for what it's worth.
Well, so he's not in the Hall of Fame, so Bill was wrong.
No. This was a different guy.
Okay.
Different guy.
Got it. All right, so 95 to 2012. Let's go with.
Wait, can I ask a question first?
Yeah.
Is he American League or National League?
Which one?
95 2012.
The 95 guy. We're not getting the other one.
I have a good guess for this one.
He only played for teams in the American League.
Oh shit! Then it's not David. I was gonna go with David Justice. That's what I was gonna go with, but he played for the Braves, so that's not right. He only played for teams in the American League.
Yes.
Ooh. Is it Hideki Matsui?
It is not Hideki Matsui.
Was he on the Oakland A's team with David Justice, though?
I can neither confirm nor deny that question.
Oh, with David Justice? Yeah, you try that. The only person that could be is Miggy, but I don't think Miguel Tejada would be.
No, it's not what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he wasn't on it. You're talking about with David Justice. David Justice. You might be right about the other guy, but
no, I think he was there the year before. I think I know who it is, though. I'm pretty sure it's Johnny Damon.
Johnny Damon is correct. That is number 9, and he is at 2,769 hits.
Who was number 10?
Yeah, who's the other guy?
Vada Pinson.
Never would have got that.
No.
By the way, it's updated. See, 1310. Just updated it.
Updated.
Congratulations, Shally. I'll come with a better pick next year. Better question next week. I felt like I did decent.
You did. You sold yourself short. You said it wasn't a good one, but you were ready.
I think we went 6 or 6 to start.
Yeah, we did. Then I got one wrong. Well, no, I didn't get one wrong. You got friggin' Pete Rose, and I just basically quit.
Here, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'll be 100% honest with you. I knew Pete Rose the whole time. I thought you might overlook it, and then when you started saying "duh," and I was like, "He's going to use it next," so I'm just going to use it now. I had Pete in like the back pocket the whole time.
Okay.
And then when you said that, I was like, "Nope, going to use it because I'm not getting burned."
I was 100% like, "Oh, duh."
Yeah, and I was like, nah.
I'm like, "Oh, guys, did cheated the game."
John, because he got into the Hall of Fame last year.
Belcher got in last year.
Okay, well, good trivia question this week. Congratulations, Shally. Taking a 3-point lead. Cottrell, I will gear the question next week towards you to try to help catch up. That's what I do.
Give me an NBA question.
I got it. NBA.
All right, cool.
Like 2005 to now, too. Like current one. Give me the current best players or the Cavaliers.
Top 10 players in minutes for the 2024 Cavaliers.
You better study, Shal.
Bro, if you guys do that, I'll be like, what'd you say? Hold on.
All right. College football. Cottrell, I always pass it over to you so you can gear us into our ranked versus ranked matchups this week. It seems that we only have, 2?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have like
3. We have 3.
We have some good matchups here. And I know last week went over the rankings, but just for the sake of time, I'll be brutally honest with you. The rankings are an absolute shit show.
Trash.
So I don't even know if we have like enough time to get into that. So let's go over the games first. And if we have some time, I can pull up the rankings. But
if you want to hear Mir Cottrell rant about it, tune in Saturday morning because the first hour of the show is going to be me yelling about the rankings.
Yeah, because they absolutely suck this week. But first game we'll go over because it does have some impact to what can happen for the playoffs. We'll go at number 14 BYU traveling to Arizona State, take on the Sun Devils there. Who you guys got in that one?
Bro, Arizona State's playing good football. I'm taking Arizona State in the upset. I think they're going to win the football game. Nothing against BYU. I think Arizona State's playing very good football right now.
Arizona State's favorite in their home.
Well,
BYU played their first kind of really crappy, shaky game last week.
I wouldn't say that, but
really bad. They've won a bunch of close games, but they did a lot of uncharacteristic things last week. And to Gene's point, Arizona State's played really well.
You stop yawning on the goddamn podcast. I'm done, bro. No more. I allowed the first one. No more.
Isn't BYU locked in no matter what?
No, they are not locked in no matter what.
I thought they were locked in the Big 12 no matter what.
That is negative. Negative Ghost Rider.
Arizona State winning at Kansas State was huge.
Yeah, eliminating Kansas State. I'm actually going to go with Arizona State here. I think at home, I think it matters. Like I said, I think their offense has kind of finally started to find their groove a little bit. BYU, like I said, coming off shaky and having to go home and then go right back on the road is not a great recipe for how they play. So BYU is obviously my darling of the year if you've been watching Coast to Coast, but I think they're up against it this week. So I'll go Arizona State.
Yeah, this week I'm also going with Arizona State here as well. BYU have been asking to get beat for a month. I know they were pulling out those close games, but tight game against Utah that they honestly should have lost. They were back caller from losing that game. And then the Oklahoma State game, Oklahoma State basically pissed down their leg to not win that one. I don't think BYU can play with that same level of intensity and beat this Arizona State team. To both you guys' credit, Arizona State's playing absolutely great football right now, and it's being led by their running back. Cam Scatterbo had I forgot what game it was that was nationally televised, but that was when the country really started to fall in love with who he was as a player, how hard he ran, and just how great he was. So I do think Arizona State wins this football game, and I think we'd be looking at a situation where BYU was 6 last week, and now they're going to be on the outside looking in of the playoffs. So I think this is a very, very important game for figuring out the Big 12 standings and seeing who's going to be their representative for the playoff. But that said, there we got to move on to the other one of the other ranked matchups. We got Army, number 19 Army, going up against number 6 Notre Dame.
I'll go first here. I think I'm picking this game. I'm picking the game. I feel very, very strong on one end of this, so I'll wait until my pick them to give my pick. But I think you guys know where I'm going based off of my predictions all year, and I think the game is a blowout.
I don't think it's a blowout. I will say this. I don't think I think Army, if the stat is correct, I think they lead. They have the least amount of turnovers out of anybody in Division I this year. I think they make this a game. I think Notre Dame wins. I don't think this is the Notre Dame Navy game though. I don't think Army's going to turn the ball over 6 times. Give Notre Dame the ball, get the ball inside their own 20 a couple times. I don't think you're going to see that. I think Army is a little bit better than Notre Dame, a little bit better than Navy. Kind of see Navy folded the last 2 weeks too. So I like Army here to keep it close, but as in regards to who's going to win the game, I like Notre Dame to win.
Look, you talk about the Navy Notre Dame game all you want to. I understand. Obviously, we saw how it ended, and we all see where Navy's at right now. After that, Navy went on a skid. What Navy was able to do in that game is run the ball effectively. They ran for over 200 yards in that one. With that said, I think this Army team can have success running the football. If you don't turn the ball over 6 times against Notre Dame, I'm not saying you're going to win the football game, but you're going to at least give yourselves a shot to not get blown out. With that said, I like Notre Dame. I think they're the better football team here, and I think they take care of business. But the spread being minus 15, I think is very interesting. I think if Army can control that time of possession and ultimately not give the ball to Notre Dame with all the short fields as much as Navy did, then I think you may have a game on your hands. But I'm rolling with Notre Dame. I think they win it by a touchdown, maybe 10 points or so. And then the last game we got the big one. We got the number 5 Indiana Hoosiers traveling to Columbus, take on number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes. Essentially,
I'm
one of
taking
this game.
I'm taking Ohio State in this game. I think it's not going to be that close. I think they win by 21. I think that they'll end up pulling away in this football game. I think it'll be close to halftime. Maybe Ohio State will be up 10. I think they end up winning the game by 20 plus points. I think Ohio State wins the game. They're just better.
I agree. I was very outspoken about this last week. I think you finally saw who Indiana really was, and they're going to go play a way better Ohio State team this week than Michigan was. A team that actually has an offense that can score. I think Indiana's going to get exposed Saturday. So I like Indiana or Ohio State to cover. And I agree with Gene. I think it's 20 plus points.
First, I'll address John's comment. Ryan Day being terrible against top-ranked teams. I mean, I remember hearing the same thing about, Ohio State can't produce good quarterbacks, and then CJ Stroud went to the league, and we saw like how that turned out. All it takes is one game. I mean, he just beat a top 5 team in Penn State.
Right, you've one guy though.
I get that, but I'm just saying, like, you say that, and then all it takes is one game for it to happen.
I will say this: Ryan Day is going to get a cherry pick. He's going to get to move that 1 to 2, and this is like the worst top 5 team he's ever going to play in his life.
But he just beat Penn State as well, and we think they can win the national championship this year.
I get it. I picked Ohio State.
With that said, I do think Indiana is going to. I think they're going to fight in this one. They're well coached. I think Ohio State wins, and I think it's right about where that spread is. I'm not going 20 points.
Cottrell's doing everything in his power not just to come on here and be like Ohio State's going to win by 30 points because he doesn't want to jinx it. Deep down, that's exactly what he thinks is going to happen.
No. Seth McLaughlin, our starting center, who really should win the award for the best center.
I want that kid back in.
No. You don't. You should want that guy. He's the best center in the country this year. But he just tore his Achilles in practice this week. So they're going to be shuffling another piece to the offensive line there. They already lost their starting left tackle for the year. Now you lose your starting center for the year. I respect Indiana enough to say I think Ohio State wins by 2 possessions. I just don't think it's 3 or 4 like you guys do, especially with the new center going into the mix.
Okay. Let's take a minute to just digest the rankings. We just went through previews pretty quick, and we'll get into pick them. We got a little bit of time. I want to digest the rankings, and you guys obviously do a full breakdown of it Saturday morning. Listen to Coast to Coast. They've been absolutely killing it Saturday mornings, but I want to digest what the rankings look like because I have a feeling where you guys have the most like upset is with the SEC merger in the middle of the rankings. Am I correct when I say that?
I mean, yes, that's part of it here. Hold on, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it up here. That's part of it for me, but at the same time, it's like I want consistency. That's all I ask for here. Give me consistency. If you tell me that head versus head wins matter, cool. I'm fine with that. But for you to really just come in and like you see this here, for example, like you have SMU at 13, and they played BYU, and BYU won the football game. But right above that, you have Ole Miss ahead of Georgia because they won the football game. So like I just don't understand. Like if you want to say, hey, these two teams are really close and they have a better like one win here, then I'm okay with that. But to say, it matters, head versus head matters here, it doesn't matter there, I'm not okay with that. And then right next to that, you got Bama, who beat Mercer, who they had no business playing. And I get it. Miami lost the game. They had no business being, no business like staying where they were, and you drop them, which is fine. But they were 7 last week, and they were on a bye this past week. So you're saying that Alabama beating Mercer means that they're now a better team than Miami just last week? Just doesn't make any sense to me.
And they have an extra loss.
and they have an extra loss.
Who are Alabama's 2 losses to?
Vanderbilt and LSU. I mean Tennessee.
And Tennessee is 11, but Georgia beat Tennessee. I don't know. I think that it's interesting how it breaks down. I think Bama is definitely getting a little bit more love than they deserve at 7, but I don't look. I think a lot of it plays out. So let me ask you a question real quick. Are the rankings now like a predetermined outcome of what the college football playoff will look like? Because in my personal opinion, I don't think any of this shit really matters until you get to right around conference championship week and when it breaks down through there, because they just make up their own shit when they get in the room and they pull up the playoff committee, because we've seen that last year. Georgia went from 1 to 5 and moved themselves right out of the college football playoff, or 6 was it? Or I think they were 5 and Florida State was 6. But regardless, I don't think any of it matters. Like the Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss.
I'll tell you why all that matters. It's the SEC protecting their teams, because out of those 6 teams, 4 of them are not going to play in a conference championship game. So they're trying to get them all out of that 11 or 12 zone to give them the buffer. So in case something wild happens, like Colorado wins the Big 12 or BYU wins this week, and all, it's keeping them out of the zone where one of them is going to get bumped out. That's what it's doing. That's why it's bullshit. That's all this is right now. It's them. It's literally taking the same pieces and just moving them around every week to make it look like they're doing their job and moving pieces. And all it's designed is to do is to keep them out of that 11 and 12 spot. Because like I said, you're going to have teams. There's out of all those teams like Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee. Like I said, 4 of them are not going to play another meaningful game. So they have no room to move up.
Yeah, but if Boise wins this week, they're going to jump Tennessee. There's no way they don't.
You don't have to look at Boise. You have to look at Boise, because Boise might end up at the 4 seed. Okay. So again, what that does is it protects them from a Miami team. It protects them from SMU. It protects them from BYU, Colorado, all those teams, because all those teams have meaningful ranked games left where they're going to have to move up in the rankings. Where all these other teams, like somebody plays the Citadel this week. Like you got to be kidding me. Like,
Clemson. Yeah.
Like, so like it's stuff like that. So all they're doing is they're keeping their teams in this little tight cocoon because they don't want them to move back anywhere, because other teams can still move up. And give
Georgia plays UMass. Great game there.
There you go. What's that spread? 45.5, something 42. Like that. There you go.
Not to mention, you get even deeper in it, and it comes to our benefit, I guess, in the Big Ten, with Illinois being at 25, like for Big Ten standards, things like that.
There's not even a spread for the Citadel at Clemson.
There you go.
No, there. But Missouri at 23, we talked about it last week.
It's a joke. They lost 3 games in a row.
Absolutely no sense why they are there, and I get it. Kansas State just lost, their 3rd game of the season. They're out. There is no way in hell you could tell me Missouri deserves to be ranked before Kansas State does, and Kansas State has actually beaten teams that are on this very list right here.
On a neutral field, Kansas State nukes Missouri.
Like, Missouri has had 2 games against ranked opponents this year, against A&M and Bama, and they got the doors blown off of them in both. There is no way you could tell me that Missouri's basically playing the Indiana schedule, and they got 3 losses, and they're still ranked in the top 23. If this was
there's the team to watch, and that's the interesting point to see what's going to happen come Tuesday, because the way they're dropping all these teams, like I said, we have Alabama ahead of a team with 1 loss in Miami. So if Indiana goes to Ohio State and loses, I really want to see where they drop them, because if they drop them out of the top 12, then some of these SEC teams got to go. You can't sit here and dictate and be like, oh, well, all these teams have 2 losses, we're just going to keep them in. But that's exactly what they're doing right now. They're keeping them in this little bubble to stay away from the drop zone, and that's exactly what it is. This is nothing more than SEC BS bias. And if you look, this isn't an SEC year, which you can clearly see where they're dominating people. Like you look at their head-to-head, they have a losing record against the Big Ten this year, in all the crossover games.
Because they have like the playoff predictor has Georgia having a better chance of making the college football playoff than Texas. And the reason is because they know Georgia's not going to have to play a meaningful game, and they're already ranked higher, where Texas is, even though they're ranked third, is going to have to play 2 meaningful football games.
Maybe just one.
It's me. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Georgia goes out and puts up one of those C game stinkers the last week against Georgia Tech. They'll lose that game.
I just think it's wild, and the numbers really get screwed up here because, like you kind of alluded to, Gene, if Texas faces A&M at the end of the year and A&M finds a way to win that game, then you got a SEC championship game of A&M and Alabama. Committee basically.
That's what you mean by they wouldn't have. I'm like saying to myself, I'm like, well, they're going to play A&M and then they're going to play the SEC championship. But you're right, because if they lose to A&M, they only have one meaningful game left.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was thinking they play A&M and the SEC championship.
Yeah, so they're not quite locked in there yet. If they lose that game, then A&M will go and they'd face Alabama there. But then that gets interesting because the loser of A&M and Bama is going to have a third loss, and you're also going to have Texas, a team who has 2 losses. So it's one less than that person that has 3. But are you going to penalize that team for making the SEC championship game? Like I just think they are royally screwing this thing up here.
Well, they're pinning themselves into a corner because that's to your point. If that stuff happens, that's what they're going to have to justify. They're going to so now you're telling me the 3 losses just don't count. Like
I got news for you. If Texas loses to A&M, I promise you they'll still find a way to make them in the college football playoff.
But it's going to be at the expense of probably one of the other SEC schools then. Yeah. And that's where the issue is going to be.
There's no way you're not selling big Texas as a program that's going to be.
I get that. I 100% get that. But the issue that you have, though, is, and clearly the committee doesn't care. I mean, they screwed Florida State last year. I mean, you can argue if it turned to be the right decision or what. But as far as like deserving teams, if Indiana, and I don't think Indiana's going to be on the outside looking in no matter how the game on Saturday goes. But if you're telling me Indiana, their schedule was this, their schedule was that. Look at Texas's schedule. It looks identical to Indiana.
I'm gonna push back on that though. Look what they did to BYU. BYU 6. They lost the game on the road, and they have a way better resume than Indiana does. They beat SMU. That's way better than any win Indiana has, and they pushed them right out of the top 12. They do not want these small schools in, dude.
You're right, but it's different though. I think it's different. BYU losing to Kansas is different than Indiana losing to Ohio State.
Yeah, but to be fair, BYU barely beat Utah. It was friggin' falling apart. And anybody that watched that game realizes Utah got screwed. Like, I don't.
They did, 100%.
That should have been a loss. That's like one of those things where, like, Dana White goes, I'm going to treat this like this guy won the fight because he got screwed on the decision card. I think, like, I know it sounds stupid. Like, I get, but you got to get what I'm saying there.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I do. And I'm just saying, if you look at, my point was, if you look at Texas's schedule, like, to this point, those big time games against Georgia and against A&M, the only 2 ranked opponents in their entire schedule, you lose both those games, and depending on how they look, I mean, they looked awful against Georgia. If you lose by a blowout against A&M, who's to say that Texas is a better football team than Indiana?
They're not, because I'll give you this: if they lose to A&M, who is their best win?
Michigan.
Thank you.
Or Vanderbilt. Yeah.
That you're choosing between a 5-5 or a 6-4 team. That's your best win. So no, they shouldn't be in. Because to at least Ole Miss's and Georgia
Oklahoma
and Tennessee's credit,
too.
Oklahoma's a losing record, bro.
Oklahoma stinks.
They're terrible
back then.
But the way they won the football game, and Oklahoma's 5-5, just to be clear.
Okay, but they're terrible.
Excuse the fact that they stink.
They stink.
They'll have a losing record.
There you go. So it's like at least Tennessee's beating a good football team. Ole Miss is beating a good football team. Texas hasn't.
I think Texas beats A&M, and I think my college football playoff is exactly right. You guys remember my top 4? Do you guys remember my top 4? I'll remind you. I had Oregon, because I have Oregon winning the national championship. I had Oregon, Texas. I had the U as number 4, and then I had what was the ACC team? No,
that's Miami.
Big 12.
Big 12. Oh, never mind. I'm wrong. Never mind. I'll just
I
keep
wouldn't.
my mouth shut.
I wouldn't feel real confident about Miami either.
Well, no, but I had them winning the ACC. I think they're still going to win the ACC. I was talking about the rankings, but I had the best 4 teams in the country as Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and was it Georgia? I got to look back.
Oh, you said Miami.
Well, I had Miami 4, but I had them the best 4 team. Oh, I had Notre Dame as the 4th ranked team. Yeah, I had them listed as number 5. Remember, I said that. It doesn't matter. That's what I had. I think the best 4 teams in the country are Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and the 4th one is just you can flip a coin.
I think the 4th best team in the country is Penn State, but
no, you're not getting me into that one. Nope.
So what I said.
Off the baseball. Oh, we gotta get.
I'll make a damn good argument for that.
Don't do that. They're gonna end up losing this week at Minnesota, and you're gonna see exactly what my struggles have been for years.
Well, I mean, it would be the most.
Going to Minnesota, it'll be the most Penn State thing ever. They're gonna lose that 1917. Like that's James Franklin.
Quadruple overtime, 2-point conversion.
Oh, God. 2-point conversion. 27-25.
What are you doing? Oh.
Why are they running a read option on the 3-yard line?
We going to pick them now?
Yeah, pick them.
All right. So, unlike NFL, these records are absolutely awful, but you guys are killing it in Superdog. So, we got that going at least.
All right, same order. I'm going to go first. We're just same thing.
Get the shit going.
Well, I'll start off with one I already kind of fed you. I like Notre Dame over Army. I had it minus 14, but we can go 15. That's fine. But when I made the pick, I think it was 14. But we'll go Notre Dame minus 15 over Army. I think you can't score like 14 points versus whoever they played last week and beat Notre Dame. It's just not going to happen. Notre Dame's going to stack the box last scrimmage. They'll be able to move the ball offensively. I like Notre Dame in this game. I think they're going to blow out Army. Second game, I call it the James Franklin tour. He does this every year. Whenever a big game at the end of the year matters, give me Minnesota plus 12.5 over Penn State. I love Minnesota in this football game to cover. I just hope to God they don't win the game and throw Penn State out of playoffs. I love Minnesota this week plus 12.5. And then give me Ole Miss minus 10 over Florida. Jackson Dart, Ole Miss. I think they absolutely abuse Florida. I'll take the minus 10. I think they blow them out. And then last but not least, my super dog. This is the only Cowboys that could win a game this weekend. Give me Wyoming plus 23 over Boise.
Who?
Wyoming.
Grace. I'm gonna start at the horseshoe. I made no bones about it. I said it 2 weeks ago. I was going to pick this game no matter what the spread is, and I am going to be true to my word because Indiana is exactly what I thought they were. Ohio State minus 13.5. Enough said. They win the game by a lot. I'm going against Gene on this one. Ole Miss at Florida plus 10.5. Give me the Gators. DJ Langaway getting better and better every week. Florida getting better and better every week. Swamp, hostile place to play. This is a typical Lane Kiffin letdown scenario coming up. We're going to talk about James Franklin, talk about Lane Kiffin. Wins the big one last week, firmly in playoff spot. Now you got to go to Florida and beat an upstart Florida team. I'll take the 10.5. I'm going to go with Gene on this one, though. Minnesota plus 11.5 versus Penn State. In my heart, I think Penn State wins. I think Penn State, they're going to be sitting on their hands all night. I think it's going to be way closer than it needs to be. But I do think they get out of Minnesota with a win, but I'll take the 11.5. I think Minnesota covers. I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit. Cold weather, nasty weather potentially up there, so could get interesting. Superdog, Miami has looked shaky for 6 weeks in a row now. Wake Forest isn't good. They do sling the ball all over the field, though. 24.5 is a big number. I'll go Wake Forest plus 24.5.
All right, gentlemen. First pick, I want in on the Florida Ole Miss action. I'm rolling with Bill here. I like Florida plus 10.5 at home versus Ole Miss. A lot of the same reasons. I think DJ Lagway, he just provides a different dynamic for that Florida team.
Kid's electric.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his numbers and it's like, he's only completing 50% of his passes here, and he throws interceptions, and it's like, nah, he rejuvenates that Florida offense. And ultimately gave Billy Napier some job security. So I like Florida plus 10.5 there. I like Texas A&M minus 2.5 at Auburn. They're coming off of a blowout win last week. A&M was, and I think they are firmly aware that, hey, we take care of business this week and we find a way to beat Texas the following week. We got a shot to control our own destiny here about getting to the college football playoff. I don't think they overlook this Auburn team. I don't think this look-ahead game. I think they know that they need to take care of business this week. And then last game I like Colorado minus 3.5 at Kansas. I get it. Kansas is hot. They just beat a BYU team, gave them their first loss. But same reason why I picked against Iowa State the week before is the same reason I'm picking Colorado here. Colorado, just like A&M, they know what's in front of them. They control their own destiny now, especially with that BYU loss. I think they go into Kansas and take care of business. And then the last game, you guys said there was no spread, Citadel versus Clemson. Well, I am here to tell you that is a lie. The Citadels plus 49.5 at Clemson. I don't think there is a team in the country, not even Kent State, could lose to Clemson by 50 points. Clemson is asking to have a close one here. I think they win the game by 34, maybe 35. But you give me 50, I'm taking it every single time against that Clemson offense. So give me the Citadel to cover that 49.5 to get me some super dog points, to get me back in this thing.
The Citadel. Sorry. It's amazing. Throw up the MLB Hall of Famers.
All right, I got you.
Okay.
So, official look at what that ballot would look like.
I like. So, how many are you allowed to pick?
You're allowed to vote for 10, I believe.
Okay. Well, do you want to? All right. How are we doing this, Bill?
I mean, we can do it exactly how we did the NFL one. What do you mean?
Okay. So, just 3. We think that definitely get in.
I mean,
they take Ichiro off the friggin' like he's gonna.
I mean, if you think more than 3 are going to get in, then say who you think is going to get in.
I think Ichiro is a lock, no doubt about it. First ballot. I'm guessing the italics is first ballot.
No, the italics is the guys that are probably on here for the first year. Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, so I think King Felix should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think he will be, but I think he should be. I think what King Felix did in Seattle was dominant, and year after year, he's the best pitcher in baseball. Super dominant. 8-9 innings, ton of complete games. His win-loss record's not going to be as good as it should be because he was playing with some awful Seattle teams, but he was absolutely dominant. I think Ichiro and King Felix, and I think this needs to be a Seattle year. That's just my take on that. I think they're the only 2 guys have a chance first ballot. I don't think anybody else has a chance first ballot to be a Hall of Famer this year. Other than Ichiro and Felix. CC Sabathia would be the third one. He would be the closest. I don't think he'll get in first ballot. I think he'll obviously get in. And then on the other end, I don't know, man. The Baseball Hall of Fame has made me such a non-believer in the way they do things. Like guys are sliding up the ballot, and Alex Rodriguez is on here, but they're never going to get in because they did steroids and Manny, and I don't think Jimmy's ever going to get enough votes. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I'll give you the ones I think that get in eventually. I think it's CC Sabathia, Felix Hernandez, and Ichiro Suzuki. Other than that, there's nobody here that like really just stands out to me. So they'll be the 3 I give you.
All right. So for me,
go ahead.
I would say Ichiro as well. I mean, I think that's obvious. He gets in first ballot there. CC, I feel like there's a shot that he gets in. What do they announce it in January, right? Like I think there's a shot that he'll get announced there as one of the finalists. Just other guys looking here. I'm not going to say they get into the Hall of Fame, but just guys who I liked watching, like growing up. Torrey Hunter was special, man. Like I loved watching Torrey out in center field. Great defensively, and then what he brought to the plate as well. But K-Rod's another one. Liked seeing him like as a closer there for all the years that he was out in Anaheim. But ultimately, though, I think Ichiro is the only one that gets in this year.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what's really going to happen. So Ichiro's a lock. He should be unanimous. He should get every vote of every single writer.
Yep.
Barring some catastrophic backwards movement, Billy Wagner is going to get in. He was I think 7 votes shy last year. With a
final year in a ballot too.
Yep, with a weaker class this year, everything is trending. He'd be the first person to ever get that close and not get in. Billy Wagner's going to get in. So that's 2. Then it becomes just a matter of CC gets in his first year or not. Between CC and Felix, CC statistically is the more dominant pitcher. I like Felix more, but he just doesn't have the long-term numbers. We kind of talked about it, with the football one earlier. He just didn't have the longevity. He had that great, brilliant 5 or 6 year, maybe 7-year run. His fall off was pretty dramatic where CC's wasn't. CC's also won a World Series with New York, obviously. Overall, just better numbers, has better playoff numbers. Can't always blame that on Felix because to Gene's point, he was on a bunch of bad Seattle teams. But that being said, I think CC's just a better pitcher. It'd be very interesting to see if he doesn't get in first ballot, how close he is. But I think 3 is the absolute most you're getting for this ballot. And then the other stuff that's going to be really interesting to watch from that point forward. Obviously, does A-Rod take another jump this year? Because again, he's not polling exactly on pace to get in, but he's polling on a way higher pace than Barry and Roger Clemens did, which is again interesting and makes no sense to me. And then the really interesting to watch is the second baseman. Chase Utley still is the second year on the ballot, and you're going to get Dustin Pedroia and Ian Kinsler, who are, again, those are 3 of the top 4 or 5 second basemen this generation. Chase is kind of on pace to get in, probably really close to like Billy Wagner, probably like 9th or 10th year. He has better WAR numbers than both Ian and Justin Pedroia. Pedroia is kind of more of a media darling because he's the little scrapper guy that made it that nobody ever should. And obviously he won a World Series with Boston and an MVP. But Chase was already, I think Chase is in like the mid-20s. So, again, it'll be interesting to see his jump. And it'll also be interesting to see where Ian and Dustin Pedroia actually debut at. And other than that, I think that's probably all like the really interesting thing to watch on this because I don't think Omar's going to get in now because of his, he started going backwards because of the domestic violence stuff. And the only other really name that I would watch would be Andrew Jones. He's creeping around the low 50s, high 60s. He needs a couple big jumps here, but there's still an outside shot he gets in maybe next year or the year after.
I guess my question would be Carlos Beltran. Like, obviously, I know the situation with him post him playing, but where
I think he's a Hall of Fame player, if you're asking me. He was kind of one of the first absolute bona fide 5-tool players. He was the lead both sides of the plate, obviously the switch hitter and defensively. I am curious to see how the Houston thing factors in for him. It'll be really interesting to see where he debuts. I'm going to say he's probably over 50, which means he probably gets in year 3 or 4. I don't think he's a first ballot guy though.
I want to ask you a question real quick, and I really mean this. And like, Charlie, I've watched both of these guys their entire career. Felix has a career better ERA than CC. CC has way more wins. I get it. CC pitched a little bit longer, not as long as a lot of people think based off of their overall numbers. Innings pitched is actually really interesting because Felix Hernandez's innings pitched, because he had so many innings pitched per year, is really close to CC's. Watching both of them play, just watching them play, eye test, who would you say the better pitcher was?
I told you, if you're making me pick between two, if you're going peak versus peak, like I would take Felix.
Okay, just I need to get that out there because I've watched both. It's like you're like you can't. It's like telling me I watched both these players play and who's better, and there's no way in the world. I watched CC Sabathia and Felix Hernandez's career, and I came away from that thinking CC Sabathia was the better pitcher. He wasn't.
No, I agree. I mean, and I think also, again, what helped CC a lot at the end was when he went to the Yankees those last couple of years, won a bunch of games. Not saying that he shouldn't have, but instead of being, where Felix is losing a 3-2 game, CC's winning a 6-4 game. Obviously, Felix pitched better, but takes an L. I mean, I always like to do the reverse thing. Like, what would CC's numbers look like if he pitched in Seattle? And what would Felix's numbers look like if he was on those Milwaukee and New York Yankee teams? I think they would be drastically different. So, again, if you're asking me, I think Felix is the better pitcher. I just think CC's going to have more of the initial kind of support behind him because of the end of his career.
Yeah,
it's kind of wild.
I do think
over that the Indians run there that got him to these places.
Yeah, it's funny though. You look at Felix's career. I actually think the last 3 years he pitched hurt him more than it helped him.
It did,
because like his fall off was so like outside of 2017, 2018, 2019, Felix didn't have a career any year where he had over a 4 ERA, except his second year. But every other year, he 2 ERA, 3 ERA. That's it. His last 3 years, he had a 4, 5, and a 6 ERA. But just interesting. All righty. Well, let's see this real quick. Innings pitched. His career WAR in 5 last years was 11. And his last 2 years, he had a -2 WAR. He had a 53 WAR up until his last 2 years. All right. Just getting my Felix love in there. Big Felix Hernandez fan, if you couldn't tell. I think Dustin Pedroia will get a lot of votes this year, too.
He will. Like I said, that's why I brought that up. It's going to be very interesting to see, like if you line the three of them up, numbers by numbers. I mean, Chase Utley's the best of the three. Leads in WAR, power numbers, stuff like that. Already has a year on the ballot. Got pretty good support. Be very curious to see A, what his jump is, and then, like I said, B, where Dustin and Ian Kinsler kind of debut and how the writers view all three of them being on the ballot at the same time.
All right. Will be interesting to see that. Just a quick recap of UFC. Just kind of end 9:00 hour. Quick recap of UFC. I'll say this. I thought Charles was going to blow that fight in the 5th round. I thought Michael Chandler. Did you not see the same thing I did?
He definitely looked gas, and before the fight got to the ground with that last minute and a half, it definitely looked like he might get knocked out there. Charles was stopping the attempts to get to the ground, and he was landing some good shots.
I almost thought they almost stopped the fight. Michael Chandler was pounding on Oliveira in that 5th round. It was almost a stoppage. I was going nuts. Now, to be fair, Charles's control in that fight was insane. The first 4 rounds, it was very obvious Charles was winning the fight, but it reminded me a lot of Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva. It did. It was a wild ending to the fight. And then I got to give Michael Chandler all the credit in the world. He picks him up off the ground in the 5th round, backdrops him, and then stands up again and does it again. It was incredible showing in the 5th round by Michael Chandler. But Charles Oliveira, Dude Bronx, it's just too technical. He's just better. That just is what it is. I hate to kind of do that to them, but that's the truth. And then the John Jones fight, it was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when. I give Stipe credit. He was active in the first 2 rounds, but man, John is just incredible. Hate him, can't stand him. Always will think he's a bad human being, but man, it's impressive to watch.
He's on a different tier, and it's just the fact of the matter. Again, I wouldn't invite him to a birthday party. I don't think he's a great person, but inside that octagon, he's on a tier, planet, whatever you want to say, by himself. He's different. He literally has a million ways he could beat you. I thought Stipe. I'll be honest with you. Stipe looked better than I thought he was going to look. the first 2 rounds, and even taking the damage he was taking from John, but you could just see it. He was a 10th quicker with every punch. Significant strikes. Like when he wanted to throw something hard, he threw it and it landed. And then he just kicked, Stipe's liver out the back of his body, and that was pretty much it. But congrats to Stipe. I think one of the most unheralded, like out of nowhere, great careers in the history of UFC. Dude's a legend, one of the best to ever do it. But John Jones, I would have loved to see this fight like 5 years ago. But with where they are right now, I don't think anybody can get in that cage and beat him. I just don't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, for Charles' fight, pure domination. I'd love to see the next stylistically 2 guys that just go in there and are going to be very technical. I'd love to see him fight Max Holloway next. Give me a rematch of that fight from 10 years ago. I feel like that'd be a fun one. Charles is on the slight outside looking in for that 155 belt opportunity. And then we saw what Max can do for the at 155 when he fought Gaethje for that BMF belt. So he already said he wants to move up. I'd love to see that fight again, especially at this point in their careers. And then moving on to John and Stipe, I 100% agree with you guys. Stipe definitely looked better than I thought, but it definitely always felt like it was going to be a matter of when, not if. John was definitely the quicker fighter there, and you also could see like John was able to get the fight to the ground when he wanted to. Like everything that happened in that fight was dictated by John. And Stipe was doing what he could to, keep his distance and, just move and things like that. But you could just tell, like, every time they went to the corner at the end of the round, like those first 2 rounds, Stipe was gassed. He was over there sucking wind, and John was just calm, relaxed. And you just knew there was going to be a point where John was going to pick him apart and put him down. And that's exactly what happened. That kick was beautiful. It was perfectly timed, and, it was right on the money. Like it was like almost felt like John had been seeing something in film, and he's like, all right, when he does this, I'm shooting the spinning back heel kick, and it's going to be wide open, and it's going to put him down. And that's exactly what happened. So for Stipe, hell of a career to this point, was the greatest heavyweight of all time from the UFC standpoint. And with John, it's just going to be a matter of, is it Aspinall or is it Pereira or is it nobody?
Oh, well, Dana said multiple times he's not going to allow Alex Pereira to fight him.
Yeah, Dana said
or nothing. My question would be, do you think A, Dana caves, B, John fights Tom, or C, John retires?
I think it's going to be a combo. I think Dana will, his stance publicly has been, like you said, they're not getting in the cage. I think he'll go to John and say, "You fight Aspinall, then I'll give you Alex." I think that's exactly how it's going to go.
I think John ultimately retires. Aspinall gets the belt, wins it, and I think he's going to have a call out of John, and then you may see that. But if we see it, I don't think we see it for a year, and I think that plays into John's head. He said, "I'll fight Aspinall, but you got to open up the checkbook," and I firmly
said that.
I firmly
hate that he kept calling him a nobody. I don't like that.
He believes that.
I don't like that he kept calling him a nobody.
I wouldn't say Tom is a nobody, but at the same time, if you're John and you have the resume you do, Tom would fall a lot lower on that list of individuals than what Pereira would long term wise.
That's fair. I'm not.
And also, as a fan, which one of those 2 fights do you want to see?
I want to see Aspinall.
I also want to see Aspinall personally.
You want to see Alex?
It's going to be a better fight.
I think John's just a bigger, better version of Alex.
Bro,
that's fine, but
John is going to take Alex to the ground and put him in hell.
Yep.
Like, I don't think it's going to be this stand-up war that a lot of people...
Aspinall's not going to be a war, though. He's just going to sit there and do the same thing. He's going to dictate to him whatever he wants to do.
Aspinall has much better takedown defense than Alex Pereira does.
Okay, and he's going to get the face 500 times.
Right.
Striking, they're not on the same planet.
I think Aspinall is a better fight.
Aspinall also has... Not saying that Alex doesn't, but Aspinall also has the power at heavyweight.
Yeah. I did want to call this out, and I was planning on using it as my you got to be kidding me, but I still might because I'm kind of teetering on something. Bro, Bo Nickel is a guy that cannot read the room. First of all, I was really confused by the scorecard. I did not have a 30-27 Bo. I had it 2-1. I had Paul Craig win in the first round. I thought the first round was super close. Bo Nickel looked really hesitant. If you look at the CompuBox stats, like this, the striking was almost identical. Now, granted, Bo's was a lot cleaner in the second and third round. I think he clearly won those rounds, but he goes, I think I dominated for 15 minutes and then refused to try to take him down. There was no, I don't know, man. And then he gets on the mic and instead of I dominated for 15 minutes. No, you didn't, bro. Like, what are you? They're booing him, chanting overrated. Like, it was not a good night to be a Bo Nickel fan.
It wasn't. And I think the one thing about that fight too that kind of gives me like cause to pause and almost makes me understand the UFC's decision by not putting the rocket to his back is it's okay if you're beating a guy and you're like, hey, striking is working. I don't even want to put myself in a dangerous position and go to the ground. But at some point, you almost feel like you would want to test it. Hey, I think I am the best wrestler in the entire company. Let me see if I can get this guy to the ground and not get submitted. I get it. You want to win the fight. You want to keep the winning streak going. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. But you can't in turn be mad and do an interview with Ariel Helwani and say, I can't believe that I was listening to the broadcast back and they were like, oh, he's not ready to be in there with guys like Hamzat.
He's not.
Bro, if you're scared to take down Paul Craig, what do you think Hamzat's going to do if you try to wrestle him?
He's not ready to be in there with Hamzat. I watched that fight and I knew that immediately. That was a very come to God moment for Bo Nickel.
Yeah, and Paul Craig, I said it last week when we did the previews. Yeah. Paul Craig is not gonna. I hate watching his fights. They bore me personally, and he's not gonna wow you in those fights. But very respectable wrestler. I knew the threat of submissions would be there, but I didn't think Bo would just not attempt one takedown the entire match. Like I think that's wild. At this point, you don't know how good you are until you get into those muddy waters against a guy like Paul Craig.
All righty. Let's get in. You got to be kidding me.
So this week for me, it is my favorite time of year. I feel like I do one of these every year. We're going to the recruiting ranks. We're going to on 3 recruits this week. Specifically, one, you had Julian Lewis. He had been committed to USC for the past year and a half. 5-star kid. This number 2 quarterback in the country, this and that. All of a sudden he decommits and they don't know what school he's going to. And they're like, you know what? Maybe Julian Lewis is actually a 4-star kid. But even outside of that, another example, it actually just happened earlier today. They reported a kid, Dennis Azachukwu, offensive tackle from Georgia, originally was committed to play at Georgia State. Kid was really a nobody. I don't want to call him a nobody, young kid, but they really didn't know who he was. 3-star kid, but he announced today that he was going to flip from Georgia State and go to Georgia, and all of a sudden his recruiting points shoot up 600 ranks. He goes from being ranked in the 700 range to all the way up being a 4-star kid ranked at like 179. This is just another example of how much recruiting, especially with these big time recruiting organizations, has turned into an absolute joke. Don't rate kids and then say it really depends on what school you go to, where you end at. Rank them how they were ranked going into the playoffs. If you had them there, nothing should change. The next 2-3 weeks, whatever the kid does, there's nothing they can do to change what you already believe of them right now, what they've shown you their last 4 years of high school. So for me this week, another example of, high school recruiting absolutely stinks, and you get the SEC and just in general big school bias.
Kidding me?
Georgia flips a 4-star kid out of nowhere. All right. Well, I mean, we already mentioned on the show a little bit, but there was no way in hell I wasn't using this week. So after their 2-11 start, the Sixers held a players and coaches meeting. And pretty much everybody aired their grievances. And for lack of a better term, Tyrese Maxey of the Sixers called out Joel Embiid in front of the whole squad, in front of the whole coaching staff. Apparently got pretty heated. And apparently Joel did not like being told that his tardiness and being late for pretty much everything, the report says, come to find out, didn't like being called out in front of the team. Two parts here. A, for Maxey, I absolutely love it. I couldn't love the kid more for doing it. But for B, it's just another example of Joel Embiid not growing up, not understanding what it is to be the captain, not understanding what it is to be the face of a franchise and be the guy and be a leader and everything else that falls under that category, all the intangibles. The guy just thinks he can do what he wants. And I'll be 100% honest with you. He's nowhere near accomplished enough to have that kind of attitude. He's just not. He's 1-0. I'm tired of it. It's just an example of why this team gets held back. And I can't, if that's just coming out now, I almost blame some of the sports writers and people like that, because there's no way that if it's been going on for that long, that none of these guys knew he was late for everything and just decided not to report it. So I'll call out the shitty journalism on top of everything else as well. So for this week, Joel Embiid just being a failure, being a leader one more time.
Kidding me.
Okay, real quick here, Gene, before you go, can I just add on to that? Because I literally just saw something 10 minutes ago came out. There was a report that came out from Vince Goodwill. I don't know if he's a local guy to you guys or not, but came out and said that Joel Embiid basically has been unhappy with the organization since the offseason. And it says he wanted Jimmy Butler. He told the 76ers, go get my guy. Joel Embiid hasn't been happy, even though they wound up getting Paul George. He wanted Jimmy Butler back over there. So maybe this is maybe now it's finally all going to start coming out why, the injury came out of nowhere and ultimately why he's shown to have this awful attitude about the team.
He didn't mind when he got that. He didn't mind when he got the extension. He took the money. He took the money gleefully.
That was my exact response. He just signed the extension. And I'll make something very clear. The Miami game was an absolute joke. Well, you know what didn't come out about that Miami game and should come out? Joel Embiid arrived at the arena 45 minutes before the game. They had no idea if he was going to show up. That's why he was listed as questionable for the game. He showed up and decided he wanted to play. Played the first half. Actually played decent in the first half. Was gassed in the second half. They got absolutely destroyed in the third quarter. And that's why they lost the game. That's what led to the players-only meeting. And Kyle Lowry was players' coach's meeting. Kyle Lowry is the one that called the meeting because he was embarrassed with the situation that happened in Miami. Kyle Lowry called the meeting, and actually Kyle Lowry called on Coach Nurse, who's his old coach from Toronto, and this is just from so many reports, so many people messaged me today, but Kyle Lowry actually called on the coach, Nick Nurse, to coach the team harder and stop allowing this shit to happen, which led to the accountability conversation in which Tyrese Maxey kind of jokingly at first, like, come on, Joe. Like, just to be clear, the conversation was started with Tyrese jokingly saying, come on, Joel, you can't be late to everything, dude. You're late to everything, dude. You got to show up on time. It sets a bad example. And then the conversation went from a jovial conversation, which they were joking, to other teammates chiming in after Tyrese Maxey brought it up, to be clear. Sorry, I know it's a little bit long-winded, but that's from everything I've gotten what happened. Lou Williams actually spoke on this earlier today where he talked about, like he had talked to a couple 76ers in the locker room about what happened, and he kind of spoke on it a little bit more. But my you got to be kidding me is, look, guys, I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch it live. I didn't want to. I ended up watching it afterwards. I was bored on a Sunday morning. But the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson boxing card was a joke, right? Every one of his fights, you could see like these weird clips of which Mike holds off or he doesn't swing or he looks great in training, looks terrible in the ring. That's not what I'm calling out here. The undercard fight was actually really good. It was Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. And I don't know what fight the judges were watching, But there's no world that Amanda Serrano did not win that fight. And there was a point deduction for Katie Taylor headbutting her. I don't know how any judge could have scored that fight other than 7-3. I watched it and I didn't understand it. So this is why boxing is such a bad name, because of their scorecards. So for that, this week, the Jake Paul boxing extravaganza.
Kidding me.
Joke.
Facts.
Apparently stuff leaked out today too that a lot of people are trying to confirm it, but it's been reported by a couple people. Michael Irvin talked about it on Fox that there was apparently, if you go back and watch like certain like exchanges, that Tyson kind of looks like a little off, or he was doing certain things. There was apparently a clause in the contract that he was not allowed to throw an uppercut in the fight. So if that comes out to be true, then I mean, this is just, it's more of a sham than I even thought it was.
Oh, it's a sham, bro. It's just such a sham.
Which I couldn't believe that people were betting money on like Mike, and it came out that he was like 83% of the public was on Mike to win, and I'm like, I get it, you like Mike and odds are probably terrible, but how do you not see this coming? Every Jake Paul fight is rigged.
It's fair. Control, if you watch his training videos that came out, now granted they're clipped videos, but he looked great in those training videos. I knew this was going to happen, but like, if you watch that first round in that fight, I think Tyson hit him and Jake Paul's like, yo, dude, calm down.
For sure.
Like, there was the jab, and then there was the clean right that he hit him with.
Yeah.
Paul, he stumbled back a little bit.
Stumbled back, and he was like, yo, bro. Like, yeah. No.
But the thing is, I saw Mike Tyson fight Roy Jones Jr. during COVID. I saw it happen, and I saw he looked great the first round too, and then he was gassed, and they were two old guys in there.
Out of Roy Jones, and he wasn't allowed to knock him out, and he still almost knocked him out.
Yeah, you're right. He did beat him up, but that was because Roy wasn't doing anything late.
I also thought Mike Tyson took it easy on him in that fight too, like pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Like, they reminded him, hey, dude, you're not allowed to knock him out. You're gonna get paid. I felt like
he looked gassed towards the end of that one. So that's why I knew what this fight would look like 4 years post that.
All right, gentlemen. Any final thoughts, comments?
I got nothing this week, man. I got nothing.
I have one. Do you have anything, Joe?
No, I'm good.
I want to apologize to a person on the show. My man Shally. We played in a softball tournament on Saturday, and first at bat, I'm batting against him, and I come up first and second. I don't have a home run ban, so I'm not allowed to hit a home run apparently. But I'm trying to go the other way, and I fucking smoke him on a line drive. And I didn't mean to hit him on a line drive, but it's like, if anybody knows me and him, they know we're friends. And I didn't even run to first at first. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like immediately, I was just like, I did not want to hit you. But ultimately, Shally got revenge, and his team won the game. Shally hit a home run that was definitely not off someone's glove, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that anymore. But I did later on in the game hit a bomb over a 140-foot fence.
I think they're further than that.
I was kidding. I think it's like 200, but
yeah.
But the point being is, it was a fun game, fun getting out there with a bunch of people I like playing against and playing with. So great Toys for Tots tournament as a whole.
Best part was right after it happened, everybody that was there that obviously knows about the show just all started screaming, which was hilarious. They're like, opening segment. It better be on the show.
If I would have had the clip, I would 100% put it on the show. I got a good piece of it. It was a wood bat, so it's not going to be as hard, but I got a good piece of it.
I wish you had said that. I could have got it. I'm sure Dart has it.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been from his angle, though. He didn't have the camera.
Yeah, but he sent me another one from somebody else that I snapped off, and I mean, it's pretty clear.
Did it hit you or hit your glove?
It hit my glove and then it hit my thigh. I mean, I still have a bruise though. Like, it got me good enough.
I got a good piece of it, Cottrell. Not no intent whatsoever, but it was.
I'm just saying. I knew it was coming. I might have had the inside scoop, but I knew it. I knew it was coming.
All right, we got to wrap up, gentlemen.
I got
Appreciate everybody tuning in. Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walls. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Control, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William Shawcross, and we are signing out.